Hey everyone, in this video we're going to build a modern, responsive and professional portfolio website using Next.js, Tailwind CSS, TypeScript and Trevor Motion. This is DevFolio, a clean professional portfolio site that showcases your skills, projects, blog posts, contact details, all the designed to help you stand out as a developer. It's a 100% responsive, dark mode ready and fully customizable with the new theme system in Tailwind CSS version 4. You will learn how to dynamically render your project's blog posts from contact details, style them beautifully with Tailwind CSS, and structure your codebase like a real-world developer. By the end of this video, you will not only have a portfolio that you can deploy and share, you will gain hands-on experience with one of the most demanding stack Next.js, Tailwind CSS, and TypeScript. Let's build this awesome portfolio website together. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your questions in the comments. Okay, so now let's get started. At first, we'll have to create a projects to build this awesome portfolio website. Okay, so I will start from the start so you can follow me and complete this project. Okay, so let me go to a folder directory and here we'll create a new project folder. And as it's a developer portfolio, that's why we name it something like this, devfolio. So portfolio website or something like this. Okay, so you can rename it anything as you want. So after creating this project folder, you will have to open a code editor, and I prefer to use Visual Studio Code. I will open Visual Studio Code and then simply drag this folder and drop it here. So right now you can see the folder name is here because we are starting from a project folder, and right now we don't have any files and folder here. We're starting from scratch. Okay, so to create Next.js projects, at first what you will have to do, let me take a new tab, search Next.js. Okay, then this is the official website URL, nextjs.org. We will go there, and here you can see Next.js is a React framework for building full stack web applications. Okay, so you will get a command here to create a Next.js app. So we'll copy this command and back to the Visual Studio Code. We'll open the terminal and paste the command here. Okay, so here npx then create next app at the latest. Okay, so that means you will have to write down this or simply copy it from here. Then after doing that, what you will have to do, you will have to press an enter. You can see we're commanding npx create dash next dash app at the latest. That means we're going to create a latest Next.js application. Okay, so let me press enter. Here it will ask okay to proceed. Yes, we are going to proceed it. Let me press enter. Okay, after then it asked what is your project name. We have already the project name defined on the project folder, so that's why we will ignore this step. So you will have to simply define a dot. If you want to create a additional project folder here, then you can just write any project folder name here, but I already defined the project folder, so that's why here I define a simply dot and then press enter. Then would you like to use TypeScript? Obviously we are going to use TypeScript on this project, so that's why yes. So you can actually toggle it by using left and right arrow key from your keyboard. Look, I am just toggling from no to yes. Okay, so when the US is selected, you will have to press enter. Then would you like to use ESLint? Obviously we're going to ruling by ESLint, so that's why keep it yes. Then it says would you like to use Tailwind CSS? Obviously I prefer to use Tailwind CSS here, so that's why we will keep yes. If you don't want to use Tailwind CSS, just move your left and right arrow key from your keyboard, and when no is selected you can just press enter. But as we are going to use Tailwind CSS, so yes is for us, so keep yes here and then press enter. Then would you like to code inside a src folder? I prefer to use a src folder, but if you don't want, then you can select no, but here I just choose yes. Then would you like to use app router? It's recommended. And right now as we're going to create a Next.js project 15 version, so app router is recommended there, so that's why we will keep yes here. Then turbo pack, it's for actually faster development, we will use that also. Okay, then here So do you like to customize import alias? We don't, so that's why keep no here. Then you can see your project is creating right now. It's very simple. You will have to comment all of this, so you can just pause this video and check what I did here. Okay, so after then it's actually still installing all the packages and initials node modules to set up these projects. Okay, so we'll have to wait until it's complete. Okay, so it's completed. Right now you can just see your project. So to run your projects, you will have to command npm run dev. So we'll simply type npm run dev, and then if you press enter, you will see a localhost url are given here. You can just copy this url and paste your browser, or simply press ctrl and click here. You can see this is your default Next.js project. A simple Next.js project is created, and it says if you want to edit it, you can have to go to src, then app, then page.tsx. Okay, so let's try to edit something. Okay, so here let me click this close to close the terminal. Then we will go to src folder, then app folder, and inside this app folder we'll have a page.tsx. Okay, so this default code is presenting this. Okay, if you want to clear it, you can simply look. I will simply select all the div, and let me press backspace to remove everything. We'll just type a new div here and say, for example, hi developers, something like that. And right now let me remove this import image. It's actually unused here, so that's why I will remove. And right now if you back here, you can see hi developers. That means so this app.tsx, inside this app folder is the root UI entry point of these applications. If you define anything here, it will display on the root URL. Okay, so you can see we will have a simple text here, hello developers. Okay, so right now still we will have to install some additional dependencies for this project. So that's why what we need actually, look, in this projects we are going to use additional packages. For example, we need react icons, framework motions, and hero icons. Okay, so let's install all of that. So I will stop this projects by pressing, so open the terminal and pressing Ctrl C to stop it. Let me clear this terminal, and right now we are going to install framework motion at the first. Okay, so we'll take a new tab. We'll simply search framework motion, then we'll go to these npm packages, or you can just go to motion.dev or anywhere. Just let me choose here framework motion, and let me copy this. Okay, so we will simply copy this command or simply type this. Okay, so let me copy it, came back here, paste it here. You can just pause this video and define this. Okay, so after then what you will do, we'll have to press enter. So framework motion is going to installed. Okay, so it's done. Next what you will have to do, next we'll have to install hero icons. So for this hero icons, and we will search hero icons react version. Okay, so this is actually the npm packages. We'll go there and then copy this back to here, paste it here, and let me press enter and keep it installed. And lastly we need actually another packages, that is react icons. Okay, for this projects react icons. Okay, so simply go there, or you can just go here actually. Let me copy it back here, we'll paste it here. Look, you can just pause this video and simply type manually. So npm I for install, then react icons. Let me press enter. Okay, so all the dependencies and packages are installed on your projects. Okay, so look here, actually we are going to use Next.js 15 version. We are going to have typescript 5 version, then actually Tailwind CSS 4 version. Okay, so that means we are just using all the latest technology on these projects. Okay, so lastly, what you will have to do, look, to work with these projects here, we need some actually images, icons and others stuff. Okay, so for keeping all these images and icons, what we will do, look, we will have to go to a Git repository. I will provide the link in the description. Okay, so you will have to go to this repository, and then look inside this public folder. We will have some images. Look, we'll have some images. Then we will collect all of these images and other stuff. For example, inside this src folder you need this content folder, and here you have some dummy data for blog post and projects. Okay, so we need all of this stuff. Okay, so for this, actually at first you will have to simply download this by clicking here. Look, you will have the download zip options. I have already that, so you will simply download it and then unzip it. Then you will find this public folder. Okay, I have already done that, so that's why let me go to the directory, and here I have this. Okay, so we'll simply copy these assets from public folder. Look, inside this public folder you will go after this unzip. After you unzip that projects folder, then you will have all of that. Okay, so you can simply open this public folder, then copy this and simply drag it to your public folder. Look, your public folder is here. Okay, so you will paste it, and you can remove all of this unused thing. We don't need these SVGs. Okay, so we'll have simply a clean projects folder inside actual public folder and a profile image. Okay, so this is the profile image. You can replace it, however you can just use your own image. Okay, so this is the first options, and then second options, what you will have to do, look, in the second customization we need the data. Look, we need these two data from src folder. You can see inside src folder we'll have contents, and we need some contents. So what you will do, okay, so for this actually we can create our own components folder. So here actually click this src, then create a new folder. We will have contents. Okay, contents, and inside this contents we will have simply actually blogs.ts file, and inside this blog.ts file we can simply copy this. Okay, so let me copy this and then paste it here. Okay, so the type definition is not available right now. We'll have to do that. Let me remove all this stuff for now. We'll just do that later. Okay, then the next one is actually projects. Okay, so that's why we'll have to create a project.ts inside this content. Okay, so projects.ts and paste it here. Again we will remove this type definition because we'll have to define the type definition right now. Okay, so we have our project setup done. Now what you will have to do, now we will have to simply create a types folder. Okay, so inside this src folder we will have a new folder that is actually for types. Okay, so here we'll define all the type definition, okay, for our projects. So at first what you will do, inside this type definition we will have index.ts file. Okay, something like this, index.ts file, and we will keep type definition here. For example, look, here we'll have some content for blog and projects, and for these actually, for example, let me create a interface for these projects. Okay, so we will have title a string, description a string, then technology a array of string. Okay, so all of these we need to define as our type definition here. Okay, so for example we will simply define a interface for projects. Okay, projects, we will keep it capital later, actually the interface name, and here actually we will have curly braces, and inside this, based on this project.ts file, we will have title. So let me copy this, and here we'll have title, and title will be a string. Then let me copy the second thing, so that is actually description will be string. Then here we'll have technologies. Okay, here we'll have technologies will be a array of string, something like that. Then what the next thing is that we'll have GitHub link. Okay, so GitHub link will be string. Then we'll have demo link, so copy this demo link, paste it here, it will be another string. And finally, so we'll have image. Okay, so this is actually the type definition for this interface, and simply we can just export it so that we can use from others place. And for example, after exporting this, let me use it here. For example, here we'll have to define the type definition. So let me define projects here. So projects, let me import it from types. You can see right now you have the type definition. Okay, so it's an array, so that's why here we'll define an array and the problem is solved. Okay, so this is complete. Next, what you will have to do, we'll have to open the blog.ts, and based on this we'll have to create an interface. For example, we'll define export, then we'll have interface, and right now the interface is for blog. Okay, so here what we'll do, so for this blog actually we will have the same way. At first we'll have title, then we'll have a string, then we will have to copy this excerpt, then it will be another string. Then what we'll have, we will have a date is obviously a string here. Okay, so next what we'll do, we'll have read time, and this read time will be a string again. And finally we'll have the slug, and here we'll have to define the slug will be obviously a string. Okay, so our blog interface is done, and right now we will have to import this type, so that is actually blog. Okay, and it's an array, so that's why we'll define blog array. Okay, so inside this array we will have objects of the blog. Okay, so our type definition is completely done. In the next actually we'll have to move to the application, and we will design our home page. Okay, so now we'll have to design this type of website, and here we'll have some navigational thing. For example, here on the navbar you can see right now you are on home page. If you click about, then you are on about page, then you will have project page, blog page, contact page. Okay, so we'll need to define navigational actually routing here. So how you can just implement routing on Next.js. Okay, so for doing this, let me go to our website. Our website is not reachable because we stopped that. So simply let me clear this terminal and command npm run dev. Okay, so to start our projects again. Okay, so right now let me close all of this stuff and back to here. You can see if you reload right now, you have this. Okay, you have this home page, but if you see, for example, if you hit contact, then you can see right now the page is not found because you don't have any about page right now. Then if you define projects, okay, projects, then you can see right now project page is not defined there. So why actually not defined there? We haven't any project page for this. So how to do that actually, how to complete some pages for your projects. Okay, so for doing this you will have to implement Next.js routing system, and to implement Next.js routing actually inside this app we will have a folder based routing system. Okay, so inside this app actually you will have to create a new folder. For example, if you need a contact page, you can simply define contact, and inside this contact folder we'll have a new file, so that is actually page.tsx. So whenever you create a folder and inside that if you have a page.tsx, so as we are using typescript, we'll have tsx. If you are using JavaScript, then JSX will be okay. So if you define page.tsx inside a folder, that folder will be a Next.js routing. Okay, so for example here you can see we'll have contact, then we'll have page.tsx. Here we will have to create a React functional component. So let me define a functional component. So this is contact page, and it will be a function something like this, and from here we'll have a return. We will simply return a div and say, for example, contact page. Okay, something like that. And lastly we'll have to export default it. Okay, export default, and this is contact page. Okay, so if you do that, then actually a functional component is created on page.tsx, and this is now a new routing. Okay, so if you back to the website, and for example after the localhost 3000, if you define contact and hit here, you can see your contact page is showing. Okay, so perfectly working. You can see a new contact page is here. So if you need a project page, you can do the same way. You will have to go to app folder, then create a new folder that is actually projects, and inside this projects folder we will have a page.tsx. Here we will have to define a new projects folder. So let me new component. So that is actually projects. Then what you will do, you can simply define something like this way. Okay, here we will return a div. So div will say project page, and from here you have to export default it. Okay, so right now the project routing is implemented. So after then, if you define localhost /projects and hit here, you can see project pages here. We have implemented two routing. Okay, then lastly, for example, here we'll have about and blogs. Okay, so these two things is left, so that's why we will do that. Okay, so what if I share you a shortcut to create a project with a file? For example, inside this app you need a folder, and inside that you need a page.tsx. Okay, so how you can do that? So firstly, click this app folder, then click this create new file. Here you will simply define, for example, you need a about page, so that's why about, then / then page.tsx. Okay, so if you do this way, then it will actually create a folder. Inside that you will have a page.tsx. Let me press enter. You can see a folder is created, and inside this we will have page.tsx. Okay, then I will show you another shortcut. For example, if I define rfc, then press enter, you can see a react functional component is created. So how is it possible? So look, whenever I just command rafc react arrow functional export component, then a component is created. Okay, so let me show you how this is happening. Okay, so you will go to the extension tab, and here you will simply search es7. Okay, then here you will find this type of extension es7 react /redux /react native snippet. If you just install this extension, after installing this extension, actually you can just simply command rfce, and then a react arrow functional component is created, and we will rename it, for example, about. Okay, so about page or something like this, about. Okay, we will say this is about page. So this is actually very easy. Right now, after that, if you define about, then hit here, you can see about page is here. Okay, lastly, the last thing you need is a blog page. So that's why again click this app folder, then new file will have blogs. Okay, so then page.tsx, you must have to define a page.tsx to make it a route. Okay, so rfc reactor functional component, this is actually blog page or blogs. Okay, something like that. We will have say blog page here, and right now here if you define blogs and hit here, you can see your blog page is here. Okay, so I hope you understand that how actually routing happened in Next.js. It's actually follow a folder based routing system. Okay, so if you hit localhost 3000, it says actually hi developer from home page. Then if you define about localhost / about, it's about page. If you define blogs, then blogs page will shown. If you say projects, then it will just display project page. Okay, so we will have some routing with pages. And now look here, actually lastly we will have to say you will have a navbar and a footer on each page. So how it will be happen? So for making a navbar and footer for all pages, actually you need to customize your layout.tsx. Okay, layout.tsx, actually this file define the structure of the website. So that's why here you will have to customize. For example, to need a navbar to the all the pages, what you will do. Okay, so for doing this, look here on this root URL, so only the text from actually page.tsx just showing. So if you need a navbar and footer, what you will do, for example, here you will have to go to layout, and here you'll see we will have HTML, inside that we'll have body, and this layout just presenting the children. That means all the routing, for example, about page, blog page, contact page, project page, all of that are actually the children of these project. So that's why here the children is passing. Okay, so root layout means the structure, the root structure of the website. So if you define a navbar, for example, here a navbar, and say navbar, and right now after then if you back here, you can see the navbar is there. If you visit any page, for example about, you can see it's actually not showing. Why not showing? Actually layout is the is actually just make the project cached, so that's why it's not actually executing. What you will do, you will have to stop your projects, clear it and rerun it. Okay, npm by npm run dev, and after then actually you can see if you reload, your navbar will be shown there. So firstly actually make remember that layout actually make your component cached. Okay, so it's actually presenting from cache, so that's why the navbar is not there. But after reloading it, you can see it's perfectly showing. So if you go any of these pages, then it will actually show navbar of each pages. Okay, so navbar is the structure inside this root layout, and after then, for example, you need a footer, you will have, for example, footer element, and say this is actually footer. Okay, footer here, and right now if you just go there, here let me check the spelling. So this is footer, and right now we can say footer is here. Okay, so we will have a navbar, then your content go inside it, and you will have footer. Okay, so in the next video actually we are going to design this navbar, but lastly before we end this video, let me style some something here. For example, you need actually some background, so we will say background by default will be for example, what you will do, for example, here we can simply say background will be gray 900 for now. So gray 900, and actually text will be white for now. Okay, we need some customization here, but we will define that. So right now if you reload, you can see it's actually not applied. So why actually not applying? Because actually if you just check your global.css, here you will have some default styling. Okay, so that's why the background is applying from here. Okay, so how to just customize that? You will have to just remove everything from here, only include this improved tailwind css syntax here, and remove other css from this global.css. And now if you back your website, you can see here it's applying the color perfectly. Okay, so I think you can just apply all of these right now, and in next actually we're going to design this navbar. Okay, our navbar will be something like this. Okay, okay, so now we'll have to make this type of navbar, and here you can see we'll have logo, then here we'll have some navigational menu. Then if you just inspect it on mobile device, these navbar actually more optimized. Look here on the small device, if you click, you can see the navbar style is awesome. Okay, so look this type of awesome navbar, how you can just design using tailwind css. Okay, so I hope this skill will just present you an unique when you are just searching job. Okay, so let's try to make this type of navbar, and for doing that, here actually let me go back to the code editor, and then let me close everything. And here you can see on the layout, here we'll have a nav element. Okay, so to present this actually we'll have to create a component. So inside this app we'll create a component folder. Okay, so components folder, and inside this components we will have a nav component. Okay, so let me define a navbar dot tsx. Okay, then rfc reactor functional component, this is navbar, and right now we will replace this nav element using this navbar. Okay, so navbar, Okay, let me import it, self close it. Okay, so right now we can see you have the navbar here. Okay, so how to present something like this? Okay, so for doing this, here on this navbar you will have to define a use state at the beginning. For example, we will have const, we will say is mobile menu open or something like this. Okay, open, then set is mobile menu open. And here actually we will have to take use state and then we'll define it's false. So if you define type here, you can simply say this is actually boolean type. ठीक है same. Okay, so boolean type. And after then what you will have to do, you will have to define a toggle mobile menu. Okay, so that's why here we'll have toggle mobile menu. Okay, then it will be a function. We are just defining arrow function, and inside it actually we will say set mobile menu open, and we'll say it's actually not mobile menu, so toggle it. Okay, every time it will make either true, then if you click again then it will be false. And after then actually we need some menu items. Okay, so that's why here we'll say menu items and it will be an array, and inside this actually we will have some objects. For example, here we'll have href, so href, and href for the home actually root, then we will say label will be home, then we will have for example abouts, and after the abouts actually you can see we'll have for the about /about, then label will be about, then we'll have a step and it will be actually projects, so projects, and here we'll say this is projects. Then after then we'll have blocks here, and we say it's blocks, and finally we'll have another href. Okay, so this is actually for contact and it's contact. Okay, so we'll have a menus here, and after doing that let me design this navbar. Okay, at first here we'll say it will be nav, and then we'll have some class name. We'll say it will be fixed with okay, so we'll have fixed position, then we'll have w full, then we'll define background bg will be white, and we'll have some opacity that is actually 80%. On dark actually we will simply say bg dark or something like this. Here we'll have 80%. Then lastly we'll have backdrop. Okay, so backdrop blur will be a small size, so that's why sm, and then z index will be 50. Okay, so right now if you go to your navbar, you can see you have an error when you have user state or any hooks from React, for example user state, use effect, or any button component that is actually one click on change. So you will have to define your component as a client component. By default all the component in Next.js will be a server component. So to fix these issues, you can see to fix, make the file on its parents, that is actually use client. Okay, so that's why here to fix it at the top of the component we'll have to say use client. Okay, so right now after then it will be fixed, and you can see you have this type of number. Okay, so and here actually look, we will need some actually colors, and for these colors actually you will go to the repository, and from there you will go to the src folder, then app, and inside app you will have globals.css. Here you have some predefined css, just collect this all of css and right now paste it on your projects. Okay, I will simply let me copy this globals.css file, and now here back to your code, go to actually uh, global.css and replace this file actually. Okay, so here we'll have some colors definition. So we will have our primary color, this value, secondary color, this value, dark and light text and other stuff. Then here we'll have when actually dark mode enable. So this is actually for dark mode. Then we will apply some uh, transition on anchor. Then we will have actually a layer of components. We will define our components if with max width, then some padding and other stuff. Okay, so something like this, a default styling I made for that. Just copy that and keep it here. Okay, so right now if you back here and see, your component is something like this. Okay, so here what next actually, after making that, if I just define this remove background for now, and this bg void, and then if you back here, you can see you will have a proper actually light proper actually background. So why actually this actually, look here, we just define this color will apply when dark mode enable. So right now we don't have dark mode enable, so that's why this white background is appearing here, but it's okay, so not be worry about that. So what next actually, after then actually inside it we will have a div. So this div will contain some styling. We will say this will be class name, and here we'll define container. Okay, so container, then we will have max width, max w 7xl. Then what we'll do, we'll have mx auto, and we'll have some padding px4. Okay, so right now if you see, you have nothing because you just remove these actually text from here. Okay, after then, for example, inside it actually at first this is will be desktop menu. Okay, so we'll design our desktop menu first, then we'll have mobile mobile menu. Okay, something like this. So for this desktop menu we'll have a div, and inside this div, look here actually, here on this desktop view we'll have a logo, then we'll have some navigational items here, and then we'll have actually the dark mode, light mode enable. Okay, so let's make something like that. So inside these actually we'll have a link component. Okay, so we'll import it from actually, let me just import it from actually next link, and we'll say this will be actually our logo. So this is actually dev folio, so it's actually text. And right now here we need to define a step, and we'll say it will be root directory. Okay, so if you now check, you can see you have dev folio. Okay, so for example, after then what you will do here, we will have some styling. Okay, so we can have some styling here. For example, we'll say this will be, here we'll have by default flex, it will be item center, then we'll say justify between, and lastly we'll have a height, so height is 16. Okay, so for these actually, here on this link we'll have some styling, we'll have text actually excel size, then we'll have font bold. Okay, font bold, then we'll say text will be primary color. Okay, text will be primary color, something like this. And you can see right now you have something like this on actually white mode or just daylight mode, and when it's actually on dark mode you will have something like this. Look, if I remove this dark, okay, so let me just keep that remove right now to just see our website perfectly. Okay, so right now we can see we'll have something like this. Okay, so after then what you will do, here we need some trademark, something like this. We will have used a trademark. So how to define this trademark, you can just define it by doing this way. You will have a ampersand, then you can simply say this is actually trade, 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 and then we'll have a uh, uh, semicolon, and now you can see you will have the trademark. Okay, you have the trademark. So after this link actually we will define desktop, so menu. Okay, menus, and here actually we will have a div, and inside this div we'll have to render our menu items. So we'll copy this menu items, but before that we'll have a curly braces menu items, then we'll map it, and every time we will get an item from here, then what we'll do, we'll have a arrow, then we'll have parenthesis. Inside these actually we'll say every time we'll get a link. Okay, so we'll get a link, and then what you will do, you will have something like this. Inside this will present the item dot item dot label. Okay, and for this link we'll have a href, and href here will define item dot href. Okay, and finally whenever you use a map, you have to define a key props. These key props will be item dot href or something like this. Okay, item dot href. Okay, so right now if you define this, you can see all the items are presenting here. So menu items is presenting here. So right now what you will do, you will have to define some styling. So that's why on this div you will have some class name, and same this will be by default hidden on a small device, and it will be visible on actually a medium device. So that's why medium device will apply flex, will have item center, and we will define a space x actually 8. Okay, so that means it will just add some space between these link items. Okay, so you can see you will have something like that. Okay, so on this link actually, on this link what you will do, here we'll have some class name, and we'll say text will be when someone hover, it will be text primary color. So text primary color, and then we'll have some transition on colors. Okay, so right now you can see you will have this type of effect. But for example, if you need to implement active link, okay, so to implement active link, that means here at first you need to get the URL of the path. Okay, so which page actually you are visiting. For example, for doing that you will have const, and we'll say path name. Okay, so path name, and this path name will be from actually use path name. Okay, so this is actually use path name hook. So we'll have to simply get this, and let me import this. So let me import from next navigation, and after then what you will do, you will come to here, and look here on this, actually here on this we can simply cut this, and then here actually we will have to implement a curly braces, and inside this curly braces we'll have a return, and inside this return we'll paste the code, and after this curly braces we'll say const is active, and we'll say path name equal item dot href. Okay, item dot href, and after then actually after then you will have the is active. When the path name is active, it will show is active. And now you can conditionally say the coloring. For example, here we will just say the color dynamically. So that's why let me cut this, and here we will simply copy it, cut it, and we will simply define this class name will be dynamically. So something like this, let me paste it, and after then we'll have dollar sign curly braces, and we'll say is active, and if active we'll say, for example, font will be actually semi bold, or you can just say you can just define some colors. So text will be, for example, text primary colors, okay, primary colors. Otherwise if it's actually not active, then it will say empty. Okay, so right now you can see the home is active. If you click about, then look, about is active. If you click project is active. If you define actually blocks is active. Okay, so that's why it's perfectly working. But here, instead of fonts bold, actually we just need to change something like this. Okay, so now let me check. Here you can see perfectly working, and we can just say this will be font medium or something like that. So it will be much better. Okay, so look, it's perfectly working. So which navigational menu is active, and you can see the page is also rendering. If you click home, then home page, then if you click about, then about page. If you say project, so project page. If you just say blog, then blog page, contact page. Okay, everything is showing perfectly. Okay, let me edit this. So it will be actually home page from actually this page.tsx. You will have to change it. So this is actually for now home page. Okay, so I hope this navigational item is working, and it's actually working for desktop navigation, okay, or large device navigation. And lastly, we need the button. For example, here we have a button. So how to define a button? For example, to define a button, after these curly braces, look on this navbar. Let me close all of this stuff, and on this curly braces, actually after this curly braces, what you will do? For example, you need to have a button. So button, and inside this button we will conditionally render the dark mode or light mode. For example, here let me define theme. Right now here we can just have theme. So theme is now by default for example dark. Okay, so we'll have dark theme enable for now, and here we'll add a comments. So we will let me define a to do. So get the theme from context. We don't have context yet, we will design the context. So right now, if theme is enabled, here we'll conditionally say, so curly braces, if theme equal dark, then we can simply say conditionally, here we'll have a parenthesis, and now we'll need some icons. So here, which icon we need? For example, we need a icons from actually sun icon. So it will came from actually from where it will be came from actually react icons or hero icons. So let me get it. So this is actually solid. We need something like let me define. It will be something like 24, and we'll say it will be outlined. Okay, outline. So we'll have something like this, and after then let me self close it, and here we will have conditionally clone. Then we will say if actually dark theme is not enabled, we'll have actually another icon. So that is actually moon icon. Okay, so here we'll have moon icon. Okay, so let me import it. So moon icon, and it will be came from actually outline. So same, sorry, it will be, sorry, let me icon, and it will be came from the same. Okay, so already imported. Now let me self close, and after then here we'll have some styling. For example, we can say in both sorry, in both icons, let me select the both. Okay, so let me just click on, and then world for another, and select. Here we'll have class name, then we'll say width will be 5, height will be 5. Okay, so perfectly done. And right now we can see here this icon is there. So now we'll have to define the toggle. Okay, so for the toggle theme, we don't have the toggle theme right now, but we will have later. So we'll do that later, but here on this button we'll have, for example, class name, and we'll say here the button will be something like this. On medium device we have to hidden it. Then what will okay, so actually not actually hidden here. We will be for example, what we'll do here, we'll say padding will be true, then rounded will be lg. Then what you'll do here, we'll have when actually hover, we'll have busy gray 100, and when actually dark mode enable, we'll have hover actually. So when dark mode enable, we'll have hover, and say hover will be busy gray 800, something like that, and we'll apply transition on colors. So transition on colors, and finally after then we'll have okay for now. And whenever we have the theme context, then we'll just for example, in the next video we'll implement the theme context. Okay, so right now here you can see we'll have something like this, and when actually hover, you see this is actually not perfectly showing. We can just simply do some actually text color. So for example, text black or text color primary color, okay, something like this. Okay, so let me check. Okay, perfect. Okay, you have the cursor pointer here. You can simply define cursor pointer. Okay, so perfectly it's working right now. Okay, so this is done, but right now on the small device you can see you have something like this, but on your targeted website you can see on a small device you will have this icon. If you increase the size you will have this feature. Okay, so when you click this menu icon you will have this. So in the next video actually we will make this type of mobile navigational menu items. Okay, so here we'll have to display a mobile menu. Okay, so for doing that, what you will have to do here, after this div, actually after this div, let me close this desktop menu, and here actually not the desktop menu, here after these actually desktop menus, here we'll have another button actually. So we'll say this is will be a mobile menu button, and here we'll have a button, and inside this button what we will do actually we will conditionally say is mobile menu open. So is mobile menu open. So let me copy this, and here we can simply say it conditionally curly braces is mobile menu open. Then we will have to present a icon, so that will be x mark icon from actually react icons or react hero icons outline, something like this x mark icon. So it's actually imported. After then let me self close, otherwise we will have a clone, then we'll have parenthesis, and we'll say this will be bars 3 icon. Okay, so bars 3 icons. Okay, bars 3 icon. Okay, so from here let me self close it. So bars 3 icon is included here. And right now here what you will do, so we need to do some customization for these icons actually. For example, here let me select these two icons, select the first one, press Walter and click here. We'll have to define class name, and we'll have to say width will be 5, height will be 5. Okay, so after then what we'll do here, on this button actually we'll have some styling. We will say this will be by default. Actually what we'll do here, we'll have to say this will be by default on medium device. We'll have hidden, then we'll have padding 2, then we'll make it rounded large. We'll have some hover color. Hover color will be busy gray 100. Then we'll have when actually dark color, we will have hover actually, hover color HOVR hover color. So busy gray 800, busy gray 800. Okay, and lastly here we'll have transition on colors. Okay, our cursor pointer and cursor pointer. I hope this is okay right now. Let me check it. Here you have this bar. Okay, so you can see the bar is there, and let me customize it a little bit. For example, here we'll select all of these stuff and we'll make it 6. Okay, so we'll have to make it 6 to keep it a larger thing. Okay, this is actually not toggling, so that's why on this button we'll have a on click. Okay, we'll have on click, and on this on click we can have toggle mobile menu. Okay, something like this. And after then what you will see, so after then actually you can see you can toggle this menu. So this menu is toggling. So after toggling this menu we'll have to display the menu items like this. So let me inspect again. Here you will have to just show this type of menu. Okay, on drop down. Okay, so how you can do this, so here you can see we'll have a comments, and we will present our mobile menu here. Okay, so we'll have curly braces and we'll say is menu open, then we'll have android operator, and inside it we'll have a div. Okay, so let me define a div. So this div will have a class name. We'll make it hidden on mobile or even on large device. So that's why on medium device it will be hidden. So this will not display on medium or large device. Inside it actually we can say we'll have a div, and this div will have class name like, let me define class name. We'll have py4, then we'll have a space y 4. Okay, and inside this div we will simply render our menu items. Okay, so menu items will map it again, then we will simply say what will simply say we will have, for example, we'll have item and index, then we will have arrow. Here we'll say we'll have, for example, we'll have a div, and inside this div we'll have a div, inside this div we'll have link. Okay, we'll have link, and this time inside this link we'll say present it like item dot label. Okay, and here we'll have href and say this will be item dot href. Okay, href. And now if you check it, you have something like this. Click here, so you will have this. Okay, so this is perfectly, will have some issues, that is actually you must have to include a uh, uh actually key props here. The key props will be index, so these key props will be index, and here we'll have some styling. For example, right now I think the no need to style it, we can style on this link. So here we can simply say by default this will be block, and we'll have padding true. Then when someone hover, we will have text primary color, text primary color, then we'll have transition on colors. Okay, transition on colors, I think perfectly done. And after, then you can see you have this. Okay, so you have this, so we need to include this actually button, something like this type of button. So after these, actually after these curly braces, what you will have to do, for example, we'll have another div, and inside this div we'll have a button. Okay, so this button will be something like this. Let me copy this button from the above. Here we'll have this button, let me copy this and we'll keep this here. Okay, so we'll keep this here, and additionally on this div we will simply no need to define any styling here. What we'll do here, we have something like this, we need to do a little bit customization on this button. So for example, what we'll do here, we'll have flex, then we'll have item center, we'll have padding py2, then when actually hover we'll have text primary color, then we'll have transition on colors, and finally we can simply have the same thing, not change anything. Here we'll say margin right to in additionally, and we'll define margin right to. Okay, so I think this is perfect right now, and let me check it. Okay, so this is perfect. Okay, if you need to define some text here, you can simply say this will be light. Okay, so if you have, then you will have to include it inside a empty fragment, then paste it. Okay, no errors, and you will have to do the same. We'll have empty fragment, and then we'll have, this is actually dark mode. Okay, dark mode, and we'll say this is light mode, mod mode. Okay, right now we can see you have this. Okay, perfectly. Navigational menu, you can just click any of this. Look, about, then projects, then blocks, then actually buttons. Okay, dark mode, light mode. Okay, perfectly showing, but you need to close it when actually you just click any of this. So that's why here we can have actually one click, and we can simply say toggle menu open. Okay, so then you can see if we click about, look, this is closed and it's right now about page. If we click projects, so this is projects, and you can see this is actually product page. And if you click contacts, now contact page is here, so perfectly working. And if I increase this, look, perfectly working. Okay, so I think this is perfect for now. Okay, so our number is completed. Now what we can do that, at first here we will have to implement dark mode, light mode. Look, this is the dark mode light mode features, and here we'll have to implement that. So for doing this, actually you will have to do theme context, but before starting that, let me fix it of when actually here the color should be actually white here. So let me present this. So white is actually dark mode light mode here. So we can simply say the text primary instead of actually text white. Okay, so text white, and here I think right now it's okay. So when actually hover, we can apply, for example, text primary color. Okay, text primary color, and I think right now it's okay. So if look, this is perfect for now, and now we will implement context. Okay, so for implementing context, what you will do? So for implementing context here, what you have to do, for example, after this, here everything is fine. What we can do here, inside this actually src folder or inside this app folder, you can do it anywhere. So let me do it in app folder. Here we have context. Okay, so context, and this context will have a new file that is actually theme context. Okay, so theme context.tsx. Okay, rfc reactor functional component, this is actually theme context. Okay, so we can just do it manually, not actually needed that. At first let me define type for this theme. Will have type, then it's actually for theme, and this theme type will have either light or dark mode. Okay, then what will have, we have need a interface. So interface, and this interface is called it theme, theme, theme context type. Okay, type type, and here we will have at first theme will be the type theme that we define above. Okay, so after then what you will have, we will have toggle theme, and toggle theme will be a function, that will be have no return, so that's why the function type will be void. And lastly we'll have set theme. Okay, set theme will be a function that will receive theme, and this theme type will be the theme above and will return void here. Okay, so this is the interface. Now we'll create the theme context. So we'll have const, this is actually theme context. Okay, theme context, and here we will call create context. Okay, create context, context context. We'll have to import it from actually react. Okay, then inside it actually we will simply define for now undefined. Okay, so right now it will be undefined, and here we'll define the type. So it will receive a generic type. Look here, undefined, that means we'll have at first undefined, but actually we need to change it whenever we'll have value. So that's why here we'll have a bar, and we will define the theme context type here. Okay, so that means our theme context will have this type or undefined. Okay, so now we'll have to create a theme provider. So how to do create a theme provider? You will have const, will have theme provider, and here it will be a function. Okay, something like that, it will be a function. Let me export it, so that we can use it. So export it. Okay, so inside it actually, inside it we'll have to pass children. So let me define children. Okay, and these children will have a type. So that's why here we can simply define the type of the children will be children. Okay, and here we will have react, then dot react node. Okay, so react node, so type is okay. Let me check if the spelling is perfect. Okay, so after then inside it actually what you will have to do, inside it will have a return, and this return will have something like this. Will have theme context dot provider. Okay, so we'll have something like this, and inside it actually we'll pass our children. Okay, and this theme provider will receive value. So here we'll have value, and inside this actually we'll have to pass some value. For now here we'll have theme. So let's define a use state. So at the beginning of this curly braces we will have const, we will have use state. So let me define use state, and this use state will be by default actually light mode, LIGST light mode. And let me define the type of this user state. The user state type will be the theme type. Okay, so that's why here we'll pass theme. Okay, theme type, and we'll have the theme and set theme state. Okay, set theme state, something like this. And here we'll pass, actually we'll pass uh theme. Okay, theme, theme. Okay, so the first option is here. Now what we'll have to do, look here we can have mounted. Okay, so we'll have another user state. So we'll have another user state. This user state is actually, let me add some space. User state actually for by default it's false, and here we can have say it's actually mounted, 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 and set mounted. Okay, so mounted. After then what we'll do here, we'll have to update the theme. So update the theme, and for this actually we'll have const set theme, and here we will have simply, we'll have something like this. This will be a function. Okay, this will be a function, and this function at first call this set theme state, and will define here actually it will receive a theme from here, so that would be new theme. Okay, new theme, and this will be type theme. Okay, so we'll pass our new theme here, and after then what we will do, we will simply call local storage, dot set item. Then we will say this will be theme, and here we'll have to provide the theme value, so that would be new theme. Okay, so I think it's fine right now. After then we will simply call documents, then documents element dot class list. Then we will have toggle. So after that we will say, so if dark enable, then we can set the new theme value, equal dark. Okay, something like that. So this is fine. After then what you can do, look, after then here you can actually pass the set theme. So let me pass set theme. Okay, then after then what you will have to look, so look here we need to toggle the theme. So that's why here we'll have, let me add a comments. So toggle the theme, and for this we'll have const toggle toggle theme, and here it will be a function. Okay, so let me define do this way, and we can simply pass this toggle theme here. For example, let me define here. Okay, so inside this toggle theme what you can have to do here, you will have to simply define set theme, and we will simply pass if theme equal light, lig is tree light, then we conditionally say it will be dark. If actually this is true, that means it will just change the value so to dark, otherwise it will be light. Okay, and lastly if you want to check, you can just do a console log, but we don't need that, so it's okay. I think then what you will have to do, you will have to initialize. So initialize theme. Okay, so for doing this we'll have use effect to check if the theme is initialized or not. So here what you will have to do, so inside this use effect what you have either a callback and then empty dependency for now. Okay, so inside these curly braces we'll have, for example, at first we'll have saved theme. Okay, then we can simply define local storage dot get theme. Okay, so set theme, here we will pass the theme. Okay, and here we'll have to define a type, so that's why we'll say as this is theme type, or we can simply define null. Okay, so then what do we have to do, we'll have to check the system theme color, that means which theme is active on your PC. Okay, so that's why here we'll have system theme. Okay, and to get the system theme we have Windows, then mass media, then here we will have simply define preference color scheme dark equal masses, then if dark then dark, otherwise light. After that we'll have initialize theme, so initial theme, and this will be either save theme or system theme. Finally what we'll have to do here, we'll have set theme state, and then we'll have to pass initial theme. Then what you have to do, you will have to define documents, then we will have simply documents element, then we'll have class list, then you will have toggle, and then we will simply define dark. Okay, after that we'll have initial theme equal dark. Okay, and lastly we will define set mount, and that would be true. Okay, so after then actually after completing this, here we'll have to prevent flash. Okay, so prevent flash of wrong theme. So this actually make persistence of the theme. Here we'll have if not mount, what you will do, that means if mount value is true will return null, and lastly everything is fine, we'll have to provide theme set theme and actually toggle theme. Okay, so lastly after completing this, here we'll have to just use a custom hook. Okay, so use custom hook to use the theme context. So for doing that we'll have export, then we'll have function, and we call use theme function. Okay, so this is the function name, and this function will be something like this. We'll simply define context, and we'll call use context. So let me import it from React. Inside it we'll have to provide our theme context. Okay, after creating this context we'll have to simply define if then context equal undefined. If context equal undefined, we can simply throw a new error something like this. So use theme must be inside a theme provider. Okay, and otherwise from here we will return the context. Okay, so we are done. So now after doing that, what you will have to do, look, after doing that you will back to the layout, and inside this layout what you will do, here you have something like that. For example, after this body, here what you will do, you will have to call this theme provider. Okay, so you will have to call this theme provider, and inside it we will keep all our code. For example, navbar main and footer. Okay, we will keep it inside this. So let me formatting this. Okay, and after completing these, actually here we will change this color state. For example, what you will do after this, actually let me edit this. Here at first we'll have busy white color, then we will simply define transition on colors, then we will have when actually dark, we will say, so dark color will be busy gray 900, something like that. So 900, then we will simply on dark will keep text white. Okay, something like that. And after doing that, here actually you can see theme context. So it says it's actually a client component. So that's why what you will have to do inside this theme context, at the beginning of it, you will have to define use client. Okay, use client. Now the problem is solved, and right now you can see you will have a persistence color. But now what you will have to do, you will have to implement toggling. So that's why you will go to Navbar. So let me go to Navbar to apply the button. Okay, so components and Navbar, and here look, we will have this to do. We will remove this, and here actually we will have to use our theme from actually context. Okay, so that's why we will have const, we will have an objects, and here actually we will call use theme. Okay, use theme. So this is our hook, we'll call it. Look, it's actually an object. So here you can see this is an object, so that's why you will have to just receive object here. That's why I define curly braces. We'll have theme, then here we'll have toggle theme. Okay, so now after defining these, actually here when actually this button is here, we will simply define on click. So we'll simply define on click here. So on this button, on click here on this button and say toggle theme. Okay, toggle theme. And finally here we'll have to apply this also. So that's why on the one click we will have to say toggle theme. Okay, so now we are done. So right now we can see if you click we'll have white mode, if you click we'll have dark mode. Look, so dark mode, white mode. We'll have to fix this actually never. Okay, so how you can do that? To fix these here, we'll have something like this. We'll say this will be for dark, and for this white actually we'll have busy white, and we will apply for example 18. Okay, and I think this is right now okay. So let me check it. After completing this, we'll have something like that. Okay, we can just define border bottom to border dash b, and we'll say border gray 200, something like that. And let me check. Okay, so here we'll have to do a little bit fixing there. Okay, so let me say when actually dark, we will have to say border gray 700 or shadow, something like that. Okay, I think right now okay. Okay, this is perfect, but here we'll have to fix this. Okay, so how to fix this? Where actually the theme, here is the theme. We'll have to say something like this. Text will be white. When white, it will be on actually dark. Okay, when dark, we'll have to say this is white. Okay, so let me say it's perfectly okay. Look, this is perfectly okay. This theme is working perfectly. Look, this is perfect right now, and it's also working on a small device. So look here, if you define this, you can see you will have white mode. Okay, so this is perfectly working. We'll have something like this. Okay, so the theme is persistent. In the next actually we'll have to design our hero section or this section. Okay, so after implementing dark and light mode, here what next? Actually we'll have to design this hero section, and for doing that, here what you will have to do, let me close all of this stuff, and right now inside this component folder we'll create a hero component. So hero.tsx rfc reactor functional component, and now we'll back to the app.tsx. Inside these actually we'll take a empty fragment, so we don't have to keep it, we can keep empty fragment, and inside it we'll have to import our hero component. Okay, so hero component, so this is hero component, and here you can see right now you will have hero. So let's design this hero component. Here let me keep it here. We'll have, let me convert it to section, and this time here we'll have some class name. We'll have actually some padding py28, then we'll have container. Okay, container, and we'll define max w 7xl. We'll have mx auto, and then we'll have some padding px4. Okay, so right now you can see you will have this. Okay, here this is the hero section, and inside this hero section what you have a div, and this div will have a max width. So let me define class name. We'll define a max width. So max w will be 3xl, 3xl. Then we'll have max auto, and then we'll define text center here. So after completing that, look, we need a logo. We need a logo in circle. Okay, so that's why we'll have a div, and inside this div we'll have to import image component. So image component from Next.js. So image component from Next.js, and inside this image component we'll have src. Okay, so while our images are in public folder, because public folder is containing all the static assets of the projects. Okay, so that's why here you can see we'll have a profile.avg. So we'll have to copy it, and we'll have to say this will be this src will render the image. So that's why will whenever you have the image on public folder, you don't have to do anything. You will have forward slash then profile name. Okay, after then you will have a word, and we'll say this is profile image. And lastly, whenever you use image component, you will have to provide a height and width. So we'll have to provide height. Width will be, for example, 100, and we'll have height will be, for example, 100. So this is must whenever you are using image component. Okay, so this is for actually responsive image. And after then we'll have class name, and we'll say this will be rounded full. Then we'll have margin bottom 4. We say we'll have actually w32 is 32. Then we'll have object cover. Then we'll make it ring 2. Okay, ring 2. Then we will apply ring primary color. Okay, into ring primary to make it primary color. Okay, the image is perfect. Look, this is the image. You can change the image and use your own image. So after then here we'll have flex justify column, or here we'll have to say item center and margin bottom 4. Okay, margin bottom 4. So right now you can see your image is on the middle position. Okay, so after that, look, after that we need this. Okay, so this is a h1. So after this div we'll have, sorry, let me define, we'll have a h1, and we'll paste I'm John Doe, and here you can simply define class name, and the class name will be text will be 4xl. We'll have on medium device text will be 6xl, and we'll have font bold. We'll have margin bottom 6. Okay, something like that. And after then it's actually perfect. Look, it's actually perfect. And I think here you will have to make a little changes. You will have to just color it something like that. So to do that, what you will do on this, here we will take a span. So let me take a span element, and we will keep it here, and simply define the class name here and say this will be text primary color. Okay, text primary color, perfect. So right now you can see, so you have this heading, then you will have to define the title. So let me copy it, and after this is on, what you will do, you will have a paragraph. Okay, you will have a paragraph. We'll paste this text, and you can just type it or your designation or the title. So here we'll have simply text excel size. Then on medium device text will be 2xl. Then we'll have to say text gray 600, and when dark we'll say text gray 300, and finally margin bottom 8. Okay, So right now you can see you will have this. Okay, you will have this. And after completing that, we need these three icons. So for these three icons, what you will have to do, look here after this paragraph, you have a div, and inside this div we can simply say class name. Okay, not children, actually it will be class name, and we will say that would be flex, then justify center, and we will have space x4. Okay, and finally we'll have margin bottom 8. Okay, so this is fine, and inside this we'll have some link, so that's why we'll have to call link component from next link, and inside it we will have to pass icon. Okay, so the icon at first we will do, for example here we will have to do the icon that is actually fa github, and we'll call it from react icon fa. So let me import it, and then we will have to need a href. For example, the href will be the github link. So for now we will have something like this. Okay, and after completing that we'll have to do some styling. Here we'll say this will be text to excel, then we'll have text gray 600. We'll have when hover we'll have text color primary color, then we will say dark on dark, text gray 300, and we'll define transition on colors and some duration. Okay, so I think perfect. And lastly, when actually dark we'll have hover color, and okay, it's actually not needed, we'll already have defined the hover color, so it will apply perfectly. And after then you can see here you will have this. Okay, this is perfect, and now we can copy this link for two times again. Okay, and now you can see you will have all of this stuff. The second icon is LinkedIn, so that's why here instead of this we can simply define this will be LinkedIn. Okay, or something like that. So let me define fa LinkedIn, LINKIDIN. So LinkedIn in actually, so let me import this icon and let me check if it's fine or not. Okay, LinkedIn perfect. And lastly we'll have Twitter. Okay, so for this Twitter we'll customize this last one. So FATWITTER Twitter, perfect. Okay, so this is complete, this section is complete right now. And lastly we need this two button. So for implementing this two button, how we can do that? For example, after defining this div, after completing this div, we will have to do another div, and inside this div we will have link. Okay, so we will have implementing link, and this link will say this is actually for view projects. Okay, view projects, this will have a step, and for now we have to implement it to the forward slash, and we'll say forward slash project space. Okay, this is project page. Now let me define some class name here. We'll say that will be busy primary color, and then we'll have inline block. We'll say w will be full, on medium device w will be auto. Okay, w will be auto. Then we'll have text white px8 py3, now rounded lg. Finally when actually hover we'll have busy um, primary color, and we'll add some opacity, for example 90%, and transition on colors. Okay, transition on colors. Okay, perfect. And after defining this, actually if you check your website you will have this look, you will have this. You can change the opacity of color, for example this is 700, Now you can see it's perfect. Okay, 700 or 800 is perfect. Let me check it. Okay, perfect. So after defining that, we will have this type of, okay, so what you will do, you can simply copy this link, and now we will paste it here and say this is actually contact me. Let me customize here, contact me, and we'll need to customize the color. For example, we say the background color will be, instead of busy primary, we'll say busy gray. So gray will be 500, something like that. And text will be, instead of text white, we'll have text gray 800. And I think here, when hover, okay, so let me check it, perfect, or something like that. Okay, when actually hover, we'll have to define, when hover, text color should be uh text text will be white color. Okay, perfect. Look, this is much better right now. If you define primary hover color, you can say busy primary color will be busy gray 300 or 400. 300 is okay for now. I think 300 is okay. Okay, we can just say when hover, actually text will be primary color. Now let me check it. Okay, and lastly, we need to add some spacing, so that's why we'll target this div, and we will say this div will be by default flex, will have flex column, and then on medium device it will be flex row, and we'll say justify center, and gap will be 4. Okay, so right now let me check it, it's perfect, and this color is not okay. So by default, when actually text, it will be text white for now. I think it's right now much better. Okay, this color is not actually appropriate. What will see, whenever hover will have text gray, for example 500. Let me perfect. Okay, we can say it will be 800. Okay, much better. And now if you check it on a small device, let me check it, we'll have something like this. This is not actually full width, so how to make this full width here? This is actually w fit, we'll have to define, it will be w full, and obviously it will be w full. Okay, so now after doing that, you will have full width. Okay, let me check it, perfect. And now if we just simply check it on dark mode or white mode, it's perfect on white mode. If you click here, you can see this is perfectly dark mode, dark mode and white mode enabled to website. I can see everything is perfect right now. Next, we'll have to move to this feature project section, and we'll have all of these stuff. Okay, so here we have some animation. Look, we will apply all the animation at the end when we have all the design completed. Okay, now we'll have to make this featured project section, and here you can see we'll have to present our projects in a card, and here we'll have the title, then description of this project, then the stack we used by flowing this way, then we'll have GitHub link and our live demo link. Okay, so how to do that type of thing? So for doing that, here we'll have something like this. Let me close this. Here we'll go inside this component folder. Let me create a new component that is actually projects. Okay, dot tsx will say something like this, rfc, reactor functional component. Let me import it here. After this hero, we will have projects, and these projects will came from actually component folder. Okay, so let me self close it, and after then if you see your website, you will have these projects. Okay, so back to these projects, and here we'll make it to section, and then let me define class name. We'll have py20, we'll have container, then we'll have max w 7xl. Then we can simply say each will be mx auto, and finally we'll have px4. So right now, after defining all of this stuff, you can see your project is started from here. So now what you will do, look, we'll have to have this title at the beginning. So to define that title, what you will do here, after this, instead of this, we can simply define a h2 here and say featured projects. Okay, so featured featured projects, something like this. And here we have to define some styling. We will say that would be text 3xl, then we'll have font bold, so font bold, and then we can simply define margin bottom 12. We have text center. Okay, so right now, after defining these, you can see we'll have this text. Okay, so after that, we'll have to present this card with the necessary information. So that's why after this h2, what you will have a div, and inside this div we will have to present projects. Okay, our project is inside this content section. You can see inside this contents we'll have a array of projects. Okay, so we'll import that projects here. So that's why we'll simply define projects. Okay, projects, let me import from content, we'll map it. And now here every time we will get actually project. So let me define project, gct project, we'll have arrow, then we'll have parenthesis, and inside this parenthesis we'll have article. Okay, article element. So let me define article elements, let me self close it, and inside it we need to define a key props. Key props will be, for example, it will be project title, project dot title. Okay, and after then inside it actually we will have a div. This div will contain the image. So let me import image from actually next image. Obviously it will be from next image. Let me self close it. Here we'll have to define src. Src will be actually project image. Let me define, this will be project dot image. Then here we need to define alt will be project title or something like that, project dot title. Okay, then here we will have to define field actually. So field, then we will say class name. Class name will be object cover, object cover. Okay, cover, object cover. And lastly here we will define sizes. So sizes will be, for example, we can have to define let me define something like that. We'll have parenthesis. Here we'll have max width and max width, width, that would be 768 pixel. Then after this parenthesis we will define 100 viewport width, and then we'll define a comma and take another parenthesis, and inside it we'll have max width width width, that would be 1200 pixel. And after then we will define 50 viewport width, and lastly we'll have 30 viewport width. Okay, so right now our image is okay. Let me check it. Here you can see we will have all of this image like this, but it's actually not okay. How to fix it actually? So to fix it, here let me define this div. We can simply say this div will have relative, and we will define aspect ratio, that will be video. And then margin bottom 4 we will have, for example, rounded lg, and overflow will be hidden. So after doing that, here you can see you will have all of these projects. Okay, we will have all of this project image. Then here you can see we will have a parent div. We will apply grid here. So here initially we can simply define this is grid, and by default grid calls 1, grid calls on medium device will have grid calls 3. Okay, Finally we will have to apply some gap will be 8. And after defining this, here you can see it's perfect. Okay, it's perfectly working. So what next? Actually, after defining all of these stuff, next what you will have this text. Okay, the animation will be applied after completing all the section. Okay, so no worries for that. After this, actually we'll have h3, and here we'll present project title. Okay, so project dot title, and then we will do some styling. Here the styling is actually uh, text excel size, then font semi bold, then we will simply define margin bottom 2. Okay, after this h3 we will have a paragraph, and we will provide project description here, project dot description, not demo link, that would be description. And here what we'll do, here we'll have to define class name. We'll define text gray color will be 600, and on dark, actually on dark we will say that would be text gray 300. And finally we will define margin bottom 4. After this paragraph, what you have, so look, let me check how it's looking. So here actually it's looking something like that. So after then, here you can see we'll have all of these stuff. So let me define, we'll have to need actually the styling, something like this, the box styling. So to make that, on this article we'll have class name, and we can say busy will be white, white. Then on dark, actually we will have busy dark, for example 50%, then rounded lg, and shadow md, and finally we'll have padding 6. Okay, so right now if you check, here you have this box. Okay, after defining all of these stuff, what we'll have to do, we'll have to make this a struct section. Okay, so project struct section. So that's why after this paragraph, what you will have to do, so here we'll take a div, and inside this div we'll have to present the technology. So that's why we will have projects dot technologies, then we will map it. Okay, we'll map it inside these. Actually we will receive tech, tech, and then we will have parenthesis. Inside this parenthesis, for example, we will have a span, so not actually space synthesis, we'll have a span element. Okay, a span element, this span element will just pass the tag. Okay, so pass this tag, and here what we'll have to do, we'll have to define some styling. We'll have class name, we will have px3, we will have py1, and background primary color will define opacity 10, then text color primary, so primary, and rounded full, and finally text will be a small size, sm size. Okay, perfect. And here on this div, actually we will have simply define, that would be flex, and we'll have flex verb, then we'll have gap 2, and margin bottom 4. Okay, so after defining this, you can see here you will have all of these stack, so technology or stack perfectly showing. And lastly, what you will have to do, here you will have need these two button. Okay, so for defining this two button, we will have actually another div, and this div containing link. Okay, so this div actually containing link, let me import link from actually next link, and inside it actually what we'll have to do, it's actually containing a href. So right now we don't have actually, okay, we have already, sorry, project dot, here we'll have github link, and now we'll define target. That means when someone click here, it will have this target blank to just take it to the next page. So without the same page, then what you will do, here you can simply say class name will be flex, then item center, then we'll have gap 2, then we can say text secondary color, and when someone hover, text primary color, and lastly transition on colors. So transition on colors. Okay, and after doing that, inside it actually we will have GitHub. So we can say if a github, let me import it, and then here we can define the width of this github. So that's like class name w6, or 5 is okay, w5 is 5. And after then actually we can say that would have a span, and we will say code. Okay, so now if you check it, you can see you will have this. Okay, you will have this. Okay, so after then actually what the next actually, here we will have a div. Let me define, we will define some class name. We will say this div will be uh flex, and we will have gap 4. Okay, so gap 4, and we'll have some margin 2. Okay, now you will see this is perfect. Okay, this is perfect right now. And finally after then we need this live demo link. Okay, so for doing this we can simply copy it and paste it here. Look here, the same styling. Okay, so same styling, we need to change the icons. So instead of fa github icon, here we'll have fa external link alt. Okay, icons, and here we'll say this will be so live demo. Okay, so now I think this is now complete. Okay, this is now complete. We don't have any animation here, we'll do that after later. Okay, but I think it's everything is perfect for now. So after completing this, next actually we will have to design this latest block section. We'll have this type of 6 card here, and we'll have view all post. If you click, it will redirect to the blog post page. Okay, so we'll design this latest blog post section. Okay, so now we'll have to design this latest blog post section, and for doing that, what you'll have to do. So here we'll back to our code editor. Let me close all of these stuff, and now inside this component folder, what you will have to do, you will have to create a new component. That name is blogs.tsx, and it will be RFC reactor functional component. We will simply import after it. Okay, so that is actually blocks, and these blocks will came from actually components folder. Okay, so right now you can see your website include these blocks. Okay, so here is these blocks. We'll have to add some styling. We will convert it section, then we will apply some styling. The styling will be py20, then we will say that would be container, then we'll have max w7xl, then mx auto, then we will say px4. Okay, so right now you can see you have these blocks here. Okay, after these blocks, these look, we'll have to present all of this. Okay, so for that, here in this section we can simply define a h2 and say something like this. So latest blog post. Okay, so here we will have to do the styling. We can simply say text 3xl, font bold, then we will have margin bottom 12, and lastly text will be center. Okay, so right now you can see you have this text here on the center position. Okay, so after that, what we'll have to do, look, we'll have to present our blocks. So that's why here after this h2 we'll have a div, and inside, sorry, not dialog, it will be a div, and inside this div we have to present our blog post. Okay, so that's why we will simply define curly braces. Let me import blocks from actually content, then we'll map it, then every time we will get blog. Okay, we'll get blog, blog, and here we'll have to take parenthesis after this arrow sign, and we'll define article. So let me define article, and these will have a key props. So key props, this key props is actually, so for example, blog dot slug. Okay, and here we'll have to define some styling on this article. So what styling will define, so busy white, then dark, for example busy gray, or busy dark actually, uh 80 or 50, something like that. Then we'll have rounded lg, then we'll have shadow md, and finally padding 6. Okay, and inside these, actually inside this article, at first we will have a link. Okay, so let me import link from next link, and here we have to present the title. So that's why inside this link we'll have a h3, and same, this will be blog title. Okay, so blog dot title. Okay, so now this link has a href, and here we can simply define forward slash. Okay, let me define it dynamically. We'll have forward slash blocks forward slash, then curly braces, uh here we'll have block dot slug. Okay, something like that. And after, then we will simply say no styling. Here we can apply the styling on h3. We can simply define class name, and we'll say text excel size, then font semi bold, then we'll have margin bottom 2, hover will be text primary color, so primary. Then we will have transition on colors. Okay, so I think this is perfect right now. We can see you will have all of these stuff. Okay, to fixed it, we'll have to apply grid on here. So we'll simply say by default grid, then grid calls on medium device we'll have grid calls 3. Okay, we'll have grid calls 3, and after, then actually we will have to define gap 8. Okay, so right now we can see we will have this type of card. Okay, so now we can see we will have to display the description. So that's why after this link we will have a paragraph. So this paragraph will present the description. So that's why here we'll have blog dot spec. Okay, and here we'll have some class name, and we'll say this will be busy gray 600. Then we will have on dark, actually on dark busy, okay, so it will actually not busy, this will be actually text. Okay, text gray. And here also we will say when actually dark, text will be gray 300, and margin bottom 4. Okay, so now if you check, you will have this look, you will have this. Now lastly we will have this time frame and reading time. Okay, so for presenting that stuff, here we will take a new div, and this div will be for example, let me define a class name. Here we can simply define its flex, then item center, then text will be sm. We will have defined text gray 500, and when dark we'll have text gray 400, then we'll have a space x 4. Okay, something like that. And inside this div we will have some span. Okay, this span will be inside it. We can simply import fa calendar alt. Okay, import it, then we'll have class name, that will be m right, that means margin right will be 2. Okay, and after, then we will simply present a date. So that's why new, then date. Okay, then inside it we'll have blog dot date, and then what we'll do, we can simply define two local date string, something like that. And here actually we will have this. Okay, and on this span we'll have simply define class name, we'll have flex item center. And after defining this, if you check here, you can see here actually this is the text presenting. After, then what you will do, after doing that span, we'll have another span, or you can simply copy this. Okay, you can simply copy this, and you will say this will be fa clock, FACLOCK clock. And now here actually we have to present the reading time. Okay, so blog dot read time. Okay, read time. Okay, now here we can simply say it's fine perfectly. Let me reload. Here we'll have this, but we'll have an error. Let me check. The error is need to define a key prop, so we'll have to provide a key props here. So it's perfect, but why actually it's showing? Let me. So where is actually this error coming? Props, we define the key props here also. The slug is not actually okay. So I think let me just stop this terminal, clear it, and rerun our projects, and then maybe it will be fixed. Okay, so let me reload. Somewhere I missed to define key props, so probably let me check it. Maybe it's on projects here. We will have to define a key props here, so let me define a key props, and here we'll have take. Okay, take something like that. Let me check it. The error has gone. Okay, so I think this two section is done. Lastly, after doing that, actually here you can see we'll have a button, and this button redirect to the blog page. Okay, so how to define this button? To design this button, after this actually, after this actually block, after this block we will have another div, and this div will contain a link. Okay, so we'll define a link, and this link will say view all post. Okay, something like that. And here we'll have a href, and we'll redirect it to /blogs. Okay, now inside here we will have to define a styling, so we can simply say text center, then margin top 12, and obviously here we can have nothing, but I think it's okay. And lastly, what we'll do here on this link, we'll have to do some styling, for example inline block. So inline block, then we will say it will be busy primary color, and text will be white. Then we will have px8 py3, then rounded lg. Finally, when hover, we'll have text primary. Primary will be, for example, it will be actually background primary. So let me define busy primary, and we'll say this will be /90%, and transition will be let me define transition on color. So tra, why it's not showing? Let me check. Transition trng shown on colors. Let me check it. Here we will have, let me reload. Okay, so it's actually working, but we just unwantedly define it on project section. We'll have to remove this button from here and keep it here. So for doing this, we'll back to here, we'll cut this section, and now after doing that, we'll back to the projects and paste it here. So by Control V to paste it here, and right now we can see we'll have this button, and if you click, it will redirect to the blog section. Okay, so I hope you understand how this is happening. Okay, so lastly we'll have to design this newsletter section and the footer section. Okay. Okay, so now we'll have to make this type of simple newsletter section, and for doing that, let me close all of this stuff, and inside this component folder we'll have to make newsletter, news letter letter dot tsx rfc reactor functional component. Let me import it on the home page, newsletter. Okay, let me import it, and after importing this, you can see you will have newsletter here. Okay, on this corner. So let's style it. For example, here we'll have section, and right now we can simply say that would be class name. We'll have py20, then we'll have busy white here, then we will say on dark we'll have busy dark For example, 50% will have rounded LG. So rounded LG, shadow MD. Then we'll have overflow hidden, overflow hidden. And lastly, what we'll do, we can simply say it will be, uh, for example, animate slide up, animate. We will have to define slide up. Slide up is already defined here, you can see slide up. So we'll have these actually. So let me do that. We'll have, for example, slid slide up. Okay, slide up. And after these actually, what you will have, so after doing that, here we'll have another div, and this div say simply, we will say this will be class name, and that is actually padding 8, and on medium device padding will be 12. Okay, so after defining that, what we'll have, so for example, we'll have a div, and this div will have a max width. So max width, for example, max width will be 7 XL, and we'll define mx auto. Okay, so lastly, if you just check it here, you will have this. Okay, so you will have this, and after doing that, here inside it will have a div, and inside this div will have h2. H2 says this is actually subscribe to my newsletter, news letter later. And here we can have to define the styling, that will be text to excel and font bold. And here we'll simply define margin bottom 4. Okay, so then we'll have a paragraph, and here, for example, let me copy this paragraph text from here. So we will simply copy this paragraph text, and let me define class name. We'll say, for example, text gray 600. And then we'll have dark, we'll have text gray 300, gray 300. And then I think we can just define, when medium device will have w actually, for example, 2 by 3, something like this, 66%. Now we can see we'll have this. Okay, you will have this type of thing. Okay, so after doing that, what next? After doing that, look, this is actually on the left section, and here on the right section, that means we'll have another div. Okay, here we will simply define a form, and we don't need to any actions here. We'll remove these actions, and here actually, uh let me do that. For example, what we'll do, let me, here on this form we will have class name. Here we'll have class name, and this class name will be flex. We'll have flex column, flex call. Then on medium device we'll have flex row, and we'll have gap 4. Okay, so right now I think this is something like that. You have nothing here, we can simply have an input. Okay, so input will be, to type email, and then we'll have placeholder. Placeholder says enter your email, enter your email. And lastly, we need to define class name here, and we'll say it will be flex1. Then we will have, say, px4 py3. Then we'll have border. Okay, we'll have rounded lg. Then we can have on dark, we say this will be text white. Then we'll have border gray, 300. Then on dark actually, border gray 600, gray 600. Then what we'll do, we'll have busy white. Then we'll have text gray 500. Then we can simply define on dark actually, we'll have busy dark. Okay, then we'll have focus outline none, outline none. Okay, so after focus outline none, what you will have to do, we'll have focus So let me define focus and we will apply ring to. So let me define ring to, and here when focus we'll have to define color ring primary. Okay, ring primary. Okay, so right now you can see the input field is fine, and after then we need to define a button. Okay, so we need to define some button, or okay, so that's why here btn, and this button is actually subscribe, subscribe. We'll have to add some styling here. Type will be submit type. Whenever you are working on from, you will have a button type, that is submit, and we'll have class name, we'll have busy primary color, we'll have text white here, then px8 py3, then we'll have rounded lg, then we'll have when hover we'll have busy primary color, and we'll define the opacity 90% and transition on colors. Okay, so lastly you can see we'll have this, but we need to make it flex, so that's why something like this. So what we'll do, you will target all of this div. Let me take another div and keep it inside it, and here we can simply define it will be grid by default grid, then grid calls on medium device will have grid calls 2 and gap 8. Okay, so gap 8, and lastly we'll have item center. Okay, and you can see it's perfect right now. Okay, so it's perfectly working for now, and this newsletter is complete. If you check it and see what happens when you are on a small device, you will have this look. When you increase the size, okay, so it's perfectly showing. I think this is okay for now, and after completing this, next we'll have to design this simple footer section for this project. Okay, so now we'll have to make this type of footer, and here you can see on the footer we'll have left side and right side. Left side will have the company logo or the brand icons, then we'll have a um date presentation with the name and all right preserve. Okay, so this is the copyright thing, and here we'll have these icons. Okay, so let's make this. So for making these, actually let me close all of these stuff, and here inside this component folder we'll have a footer dot tsx. Okay, rfc reactor functional component, and here we'll go to the layout, and now instead of this footer element we'll import the footer component. Okay, fwter footer components. Let me import it, and now I think here we'll have the footer. Okay, so let's design this footer section, and for making this we will simply define semantic tag, that is actually footer fwter footer, and inside this footer we can have some styling. For example, we will say where actually we'll have by default background white, we'll have dark, we'll say so background busy dark, and then we'll have border top, so border top, and then we'll have border gray 200, then we'll have on dark border gray 800, so border gray 800, something like that. And after then inside it we'll have another div. This div will contain, for example, class name, and we'll say container, then max width 700, 700 sorry 7xl, and here we'll have mx auto, and finally px4 and py, for example, 8. Okay, so after this div we will have another div, and this div will say we will have these two things. So this will say flex by default flex column, then we'll have on medium device flex row. Okay, flex row, and then we'll have justify between and item center. Okay, fine. After completing that we'll have a div. So this div will say, for example, we can have styling like we'll have margin bottom 4 on a small device, we'll have on medium device margin bottom 0. Okay, inside it actually we will have a link. Okay, so link from next link, and it will say for example dev folio, and we'll have to show the trademark. So and ampersand will have trade, then we'll have exclamatory sorry colon, and then inside it we'll have class name. We'll simply say that would be text excel font bold and text primary color. Okay, so text primary color, and every link has a href, and we can simply say it will be the root directory. Okay, now after you can just define that, you can see you will have devfolio here, and after then you will have this. Okay, so for doing that, let me copy it, and after this link we'll have a paragraph. We'll have to paste it, and we have to make it dynamically, so that it will present the current date of year. So we'll have new date, date, we'll call this function, and after then we'll have to define get full year. Okay, so this method, and after defining this, it's actually okay. So left side is okay right now, so you can see it, left side is okay right now. And now we can have some styling on this paragraph. We can have say this will be text sm. So text sm will have text secondary color, and we'll have margin top 2. Okay, so after this div we'll have another div, and this div will contain all of these icons. Okay, all of these icons, something like that. So to define all of this icon, we can just copy it from hero section. So here you can see we'll have this. Okay, we'll have this section. Okay, so we can simply copy it and back to here and replace it there. Okay, so we'll have to import github from fa icon, linkedin from fa icon, then twitter from fa icon. And right now if you check it, you will have something like this. Okay, but we need to define some styling. We will remove this justify center from here. Okay, so and margin bottom from here, and instead of space x6 we'll have something like that. And after doing that, you can have it's completed. Look, it's completed, our home page is completed right now. Now we will have to make this about page here. Right now about page is now just a simple text, but we'll have this type of about text. Look, we'll have this type of about text. We'll have to present our skill, then we'll have to present actually experience, and then educations. Okay, so next we are going to make this about page. Okay, so to make this type of about page, what you will have to do, look, our about page right now something like that. Okay, so to make this type of about page, here we'll back to this Visual Studio Code and close this component folder. We'll go to about folder, and inside this we'll have page.tsx. Here we'll have to design this. Okay, so for doing that, here at first we'll have to define container. Okay, so this is container, then we will say max w7xl, and now mx auto, and then we'll have py12. Okay, something like that. Okay, so after doing that, you can see we'll have this. If you need more space, you can just simply define that will be py200. So something like this. Okay, so now you can see this is your home page. If you click about, this is your about page. Okay, so after that, what you will do, so inside it, actually inside this we will have a h on, and say this is actually about me. Okay, about me. Okay, so let's some styling here. So for example, we will have text for excel, then we will have font bold, then we will have margin bottom 8 and text center. So text center right now you have this. Okay, so after this, look, here we'll have these paragraphs. So that's why after doing that, here we'll have a section, and this section is actually for bio section. Let me add a comments here. So we'll have a comments. This comments is actually bio section. Okay, so here we'll have to define some text for this paragraph. Actually, let me copy this text. We'll simply copy this text and paste it here, and then we can simply say this paragraph will be text large size, then we'll have text secondary color, we'll say max w 3xl, and then we'll have mx auto, text will be center. Okay, text center. Okay, fine. And on this section tag we have to define margin bottom 16. Okay, so right now after defining these, you can see you will have this text. Okay, so now we'll have to design this skill section. So for doing that, after that we'll have a comment. This is actually skills section. Okay, so here what you will have to do, we'll have a section and we'll say this section actually we simply define class name margin bottom 16, and inside these sections we will have a h2, so that will say for example that will say skills, and we can have some styling here. So the styling is actually, for example, we'll have section title. Okay, section title, and this section title is defined on global css. You can see here you will have section title, we'll apply this styling. So let me copy it and back to here and we'll apply this. Okay, so now you can see you have this section title, something like this. Okay, after this h2 we'll have a div. Okay, let me take a intro here, and inside this div we can simply define some styling. For example, we will say it will be max w7xl, that is full width, then we'll have mx auto, then we'll have grade, and then we will have by default grade calls 1. Actually you don't need, okay, we have already that, we don't need this. Okay, so we don't need this, we can have something like this. Here we will have grid calls 1 on medium device. On medium device we can say grid calls 2, so grid calls 2, and on large device we'll have grid calls 3. Okay, so grid calls 3, and lastly we can have gap 6. Okay, gap 6. Inside these, actually inside this, what you will have to do, you will have to define a div, and inside this div we'll have to import fa code icon from fa icons. Then let me close it, and here we'll have some class name. Okay, so we can say this will be height 8 and width 8. Then we'll have text primary color, and lastly we will have to define for example margin bottom 4. And on this div, actually on this div we'll have class name, and we can have to define that would be busy white color. Then we'll have dark, actually, so for this dark we'll have busy dark color, and we'll add opacity, for example 50. We'll have padding 6, we'll have rounded lg, and lastly shadow md. Okay, so s is a dow md. Okay, so I think it's fine. Let me check it. Here we'll have this code icon. Okay, after this code icon we'll have a subtitle and some things, actually. Okay, so for doing this we'll have a h3 here. This is content front end, so this is your skill. And for this, here we will have simply define class name. We can say this will be text excel, then font semi bold, and space actually margin bottom 2. Okay, so after then we'll have some ul, and inside this we'll have li, we'll have some skills. So the first skill is react skill, so we'll have react or next.js skill. And then we will have another li, and we'll say this is typescript skill. You already know that typescript. Then we'll have tailwind css skill, tailwind css. Lastly we'll have html5 or css3 skill. Okay, so this is all the skills, and right now if you check your website you will have all of that. Okay, you need some customization. For example, on this ul you will have, for example, text secondary color and space y 3. Okay, specify 2 is okay, fine. Okay, so let me check it. You will have all of this. So if you have on card, you can just copy this card. So let me copy this card. So this is our card and we will copy it, paste it here. So now we'll have some, for example, backend skill. So let me define the second one is backend skill, and we'll have to change this. So I think let me copy it from here. We'll have Node.js. Let me paste the first li. So Node.js, then we'll have express. So express.js, so this is express.js. Thirdly, we have postgres, then we'll have mongodb. Okay, so lastly we'll have mongodb. So I just copy paste from here. You just type it manually what skill you have. So right now we have backend skill. So let me change this icon. So for doing that, instead of fa code, we will have actually fa laptop um laptop code. Okay, something like that. So after doing that, you can see you will have the same icons, and after then we'll have tools section. So again we'll have to copy this div and paste it here, and this is actually tools and others. So let me copy this title, paste it here, and let me copy all of these tools. Okay, so you can change it by your own, it's up to you which tools have your expertise. Okay, lastly aws. Finally, what you will have cd and cli. Okay, cli and cd. Okay, so this skill section is done. You can see this skill section is done. After doing that, we'll have experience section. So for making this experience section, so let me close this. We will have a comment. So experience, PRIENS, experience section. And here what you will have to do for this experience section, here we'll have section, and this section again, for example, this section again margin bottom 16. So class name margin bottom mb16, and inside it actually we will have h2. So h2, and h2 will say this is actually experience, XPRIENCS, expenses. And here we can have to say this is actually section title, class name section title. So let me copy it from here. So section title, and after doing that, what you will have to do, you will have to do a div, and inside this div we can have to say this will be max with 3xl, then we'll have mx auto, and we'll have a space y8. Okay, a space y8. And inside this div, what you will have, inside this div we can have to define another div, and this div will say for example, this div will say here we will have some class name, and we'll define busy white, then we'll have dark, actually busy dark /50, then we'll have padding 6, rounded lg, and shadow md, and inside it actually we will have a h3. So let me define h3, and this h3 will say this is actually senior full stack developer. So something like this. Here we'll have some class name. We can have to say this will be text excel, then font semi-bold, and finally we will have margin bottom 2. Then what we'll have to do here, we'll have a paragraph, and this paragraph is something like this, company name. Okay, for example company name, and the time frame. Okay, so here for this paragraph we can simply say text primary color, and finally we'll have to define margin bottom 2. And lastly here on this we will have the ul. Inside this we'll have li, and for example inside this li we'll have all of this type of text. Okay, let me copy the first one. We'll have l2, you will have your just second implementation you just provide for the company, and this is the third li. Okay, and on this ul you will have class name, and same this will be text secondary, and then we'll have space y2, then we'll have list disk. Okay, so list type disk and list inside. Okay, so I think perfectly fine for these. Actually, let me check, it's perfectly okay. So after doing that, you can simply copy this div. Okay, so you can simply copy this div and paste it here, and you can just change it. For example, you will have senior full stack developer, something like that, and you can just change it. I just not change it, you have to do this. Okay, so after experience section, what next? Actually, you will have education section. So this is actually similar. So let me define what you will have to do. You will have to close this section, and you will have to define education section. Okay, education section, and for doing this, we can simply copy this section and paste it here, and we will say this is actually education. Okay, education. And here we don't need this list item, so we'll remove it. Okay, we'll have to remove this. Actually we'll have only on list item, something like that. Okay, so that's why here what you'll have to do, for example, look, we'll have the degree name you have defined it. For example, here we'll have this degree name, then we'll have the university name. We can just define it here, and we will have a paragraph. Okay, so we can simply define, instead of this ul, we can say this will be another paragraph, and say this is the text, and here we'll have some styling. For example, we will have the paragraph text, actually text secondary color, text secondary color. Okay, so right now I think you just see we'll have the same styling. Okay, perfectly, this about section is done. Next we'll have projects and blog section, and lastly we'll have contact section. Okay, so we'll do the project and blog section in the next video. Okay, so now to make this project page section, what you'll have to do, look, let me close all of this stuff. We will open this project folder, and here we'll have page.tsx. We will simply define this will be inside it. We can have something like this. We'll have a each one, and we'll say this is actually my projects. Okay, my projects. And here we'll have some styling. We will simply define this div will be container. So container, then we can have simply say here we'll have max w 7xl, and we'll have mx auto, and then we will have for example py20. Okay, so right now we can see have something like that. Okay, and then what you will do, okay, after that inside here we can have, look, we can have to make some styling on this h1, and we will say this will be text for excel, and then font will be bold, and margin bottom will be 4, and finally we'll have text center. Okay, so look, this is perfect right now. And after then we need to have some paragraph, so that's why we'll have paragraph, and this paragraph will be something like this. Let me copy this and keep it here. We'll have to define some styling on this paragraph, so class name, and here we'll have text lg, and then we can have text secondary. Finally we'll have margin bottom 24, and text will be center. Okay, so you can see this is perfect right now. And after then we'll have to present this type of card, and for doing that actually I have already done this on components folder. You can see we'll have project section, and we can simply copy this div. So inside this div actually we'll have the project, so that's why we can simply copy this div and paste it on this page.tsx after this paragraph. Okay, so let me import projects image here. So let me fix the issues. This image is not imported. Let me import it from next image. So where is actually image? So this is from next image. After then we'll have to import this link from next link. We'll have to import this github. Okay, so github and vault. Okay, perfect. Right now we can see you will have this page completed. Okay, after doing that, next we'll have to just design this blog page based on this. So let me go to this blog page. Here everything is fine. We can have the thing is that we will go to the blogs, and here page.tsx we can simply have this. This is the same way. Let me copy this. We'll have this styling on this blog page. We'll have simply define, let me define class name. Okay, so here class name paste. Okay, so inside it actually we'll have to paste. Why it's not working, let me check it. Let me copy this full class name and we will simply paste it here. Okay, and after then inside it we will have a h1 something like this. So let me copy this h1. Okay, and this is actually we will say blog post. Okay, so let me customize it blog post, and after then look, we'll have to present this type of card. So this card is already designed on actually components. So here go components page.tsx. Here and see we will have this section, copy this div, and back here after this h1 we will simply paste it, and let me import these blocks. Okay, then import this link from next link, then we'll have alt. Okay, then we'll have clock, and finally what you will have to do, for example here we have everything done. We just define some margin bottom, so for example 20 for now, and right now so you can see it's perfectly displaying. So we have about page done, project page done, and blog page done, and lastly we'll have to make this contact page, and our contact page will have something like this. Okay, okay, so now we'll have to make our contact page, and our contact page will look like something like that. Okay, so here we'll have some information, and then here you have form. You can simply define your name here. Okay, then you can just define your email address, for example hello@codetutorbd.com, and lastly we'll have hi. So this is a thanksgiving. Okay, thanksgiving email. Okay, something like that. And then if you send if you click here, look, it's sending, it's actually loading, and after then it's actually said message sent successfully. Okay, so how to make this type of contact form on your projects. Okay, so for doing that here what you will have to do, we'll close everything, go to the contact page, and here we'll have to design it. So for designing these actually at first what you will have to do, here on this div we have class name, and we said this will be container, and then we'll have max w 7xl, then we'll have mx auto, and then we'll have padding py20, and after then actually we will have h1 will say contact me, and here we'll have some styling. We will say this will be text for excel, then font bold, and finally we'll have margin bottom 8, and say text center. Okay, so text center. So right now we can see you have this, and now we'll have this two section. Okay, so for making this two section, after this h1 we'll have a div, and inside this div we'll have another div, and this is actually for contact information. So contact info, and here on this div we will say something like this. We'll have grid. Okay, we'll have grid calls on, and something like this. Here we'll have actually grid called gap 12. Okay, so after this here on this div we will say something like this. We'll have a space y8. Okay, and inside it actually at first we'll have a h2. This will say get in touch, touch, and on this h2 we'll say something like that. We'll have text to excel, then we will have font semi-bold, and then we'll have margin bottom 4. After this h2 we'll have a paragraph, and this paragraph will say something like this. Let me copy this, and here we'll have this, and in this we'll have class name. We'll say text text secondary, and we will define on medium device width will be 2 by 3. Okay, so right now if you check here, you will have this. Okay, after then you will have these icons. Okay, so for doing this, actually we will have a div, and inside this div we will have another div, and this div will say something like this div will say, here we'll have fa envelope, something like this icon, and we will say this will be class name. We will have w6h6, and we'll have text primary color. Okay, text primary color. And after this we'll have another div, and this div will say h3, and we'll say here this is email. And now here we'll have to provide a link component, so from next link, and we'll say for example, hello at the rate code tutor bd.com, and on this link we will have simply define href, and we will say this is actually mail to and your email address. So I will copy this and paste it here, and after doing that, actually here we'll have class name, and this class name will say text secondary, and when someone hover, the text color will be primary color. Okay, so I think this is fine. On h3 we will simply define class name, and same, this will be text semi bold, say text semi bold. Okay, so let me define text semi bold. Okay, lastly on this div we will have nothing class name. Here we can have something like this. On this div we will have to say this will be flex item center and space y. Actually we can have just a gap 4 here, so gap 4. And lastly, finally, the above div, so that means this div will contain space y4. And right now if you check, we'll have something like this, but this is actually not okay. So how to fix it? Actually, to fix this, actually what you can do, look, this is not perfect here. We'll have this gap, it's a big gap, and right now after defining this, it's perfect. Okay, you have email. Okay, so we can have to remove this colon from here, and after defining this, we can simply copy this div section, and let me paste it here. Here we will change the icons, so the next icon is actually for phone, so fa phone, phone phone. And now here we'll say this will be phone, and now we will simply define it will be phone, and this phone will be something like this. Here we will simply define this, and on this anchor, actually we can have something like this. We'll have telephone, so this is tel, then we'll have clone, then we'll have your number. So let me just remove these curly braces and space and this, all of this, and this is okay, fine right now. And after completing this, actually then we need another one. Let me check it. We'll have two things done, and lastly we'll have another one. This is for location, so we'll copy this div, and then what we'll do, we'll have another div, and here we'll say for example, this is actually if a map, then marker marker world icon, and here we'll say this is location, and this location is actually we will use paragraph. Here we will say this is actually sounds of friends. Okay, let me copy this from this text. Okay, let me copy this and paste it here on this paragraph, and we'll say this text will be text secondary. Okay, text secondary. And I think this left side is done. Left side is done, and now we'll have to complete the right side. Okay, the location icon is not okay. Let me define. So this is not okay. What you will have to do, for example, we'll have to use this icons actually, something like this. We need to change the icon. Here we will have, for example, map marker vault. Okay, so right now I think this is the correct icon, and let me remove this unused icon from here. Okay, so I think this is perfect. Left side is done. Now we'll just move to the right side, and if you need mass space, you can just define here on, we can say this will be, for example, 20. So right now it's much better. Okay, so for this type of form, what you will do here, after this we can simply say our form will have something like that. We'll have say contact form, and inside this we'll have a div, and this div will say, for example, this div will say here we'll have background busy white, then we'll have, for example, on dark we can say busy dark 50 forward slash 50. So the opacity, then we'll have padding 6, we'll have rounded lg and shadow md. Okay, lastly inside it, actually inside it will have form. Okay, this form not get any actions from here. We'll have some class name. We'll say this form will be space y6. So space y6, and inside this form what we'll do, inside this form actually we will have div, and this div contain a label. Label will be, for example, name, and here we'll say, so this is actually name, and after this label we'll have a input. Okay, so this input is actually for text, and we will say this is id name, and for example, name is name. Okay, so name is name, and here we'll have placeholder, and this placeholder actually say enter your name or something like this. Let me check, it's actually okay, so we'll have something like this. We'll need to define some styling on this level. We will have styling, for example, we'll say this is actually block, and then it will be text sm size, then we will have font medium, and lastly we will have margin bottom too. And on this input field actually we will have class name, and say w by default full, then we'll have padding px4 py2, and then to make rounded we'll have rounded md. Okay, rounded md, and after making rounded md we'll have border, and we'll have border gray, for example 300. Then we will define on dark, actually on dark we can have border gray 300, border, okay, border gray 700 is fine. Here we'll have busy white, and then we'll have on dark busy will be dark, and lastly we'll have focus will be ring 2, then we'll have focus, then ring color will be, for example, primary. Okay, then we'll have focus 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 border none. Okay, border any none. So perfectly completed, you have this. Okay, you can see this is your input field for the name, and again we'll have email and this text. Okay, so we can simply copy this div and say it will be for email, and we'll have to change it, it will be email, and let me say the type will be id email text. Okay, sorry, so text will be email, and lastly let me copy it. So let me copy this, and we'll say name will be email, so enter your email. Okay, so email. So right now I think these two things is done. So enter your name, enter your email, And finally we'll have this message section, and we can have to copy this div and say it, and instead of this label we will have actually, so for example this will be message. For example, this is message message, and we'll say this HTML for is message message, and instead of actually input field we can have a text area. So okay, so this will be a text area, and right now we don't need to define type here, so we can have this is actually message. Let me copy it, paste it here, and enter your message message message. Okay, and now whenever you have actually text area, you can have to define rows and columns. You can have, for example, rows are o ws, rows will be for example 4, and we make it required, and we can have all the is properties is required. So let me define, it will be required, and obviously this name is required. Okay, required. Okay, so perfectly we have all of this stuff done, and now lastly we need to have the button. Okay, so for example we'll have a button. This button is actually based on the rendering, so that's why at first we'll have define some status, then we'll define our button. Okay, so for example here to implement all of this stuff we can have some use state here. For example we'll have const, and we say it will be an array, then we'll have use state, and this use state will have something like this. Inside it we'll have objects, will capture name, email, and message. Okay, and let me define a interface for this user state. We'll have interface, so we'll receive the form data. Okay, so form data, and this form data name will be string, then email will be string, message will be string, and we will use this type here. Okay, so we have to define this type. This will be form data type, and after then what you will have to do, we'll have to define a status. Okay, so we'll have to define a status, status. It's actually for uh it's actually for actually when you submit this form, look, it's have some loading state, so that's why it will have a state is status, status status, and that is actually set status, set status status, and here you will have user state. And now inside this user state what you will do, you just simply define igel. Okay, and for this type let me define another type here. At the top we'll have for example type, and we'll define from status, status status, and this type will be something like this. Okay, so now we'll use this type here on this user state. Okay, so this is from status, so from status. So lastly what you will have to do, based on this status we will simply just render this button. Okay, so here on this button what you will say, so here on this button we will simply inside it actually we will have curly braces, and we'll say status, and if status for example what we did actually here sending. Okay, so we can have, okay, let me define here, we'll have another properties, we'll have loading, 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 and we can have for example here we'll have it will be an array. Let me define, it will be an array, and after then instead of send we'll have success. So after loading we can have success, succ ess success, and here actually we don't need this stuff, we can have this. Okay, so right now here we'll have check if the status is loading, if the status is loading. So for example is loading, we can have conditionally say, so conditionally say this will be sending, send sending, otherwise send message. Okay, so right now we can see you have this, so let me just okay. Whenever you have use state, you will have to make it a client component. So let me define use client component, and then you can see you will have this. The button is not styled properly. We'll have to design this button. So let me design this button. Okay, so for this button we'll have to define the type. Whenever you use a button on actually form, you will have submit type. Then we will have class name, and this class name will be, for example, full. Then we'll have btn, then we'll say button primary. Okay, button primary. Okay, so right now after doing that, you can see the button is okay, completed. So if you just reload, you can see have something like this. Okay, so perfect. So the color is not perfectly showing the placeholder color. So what you can do, that you can simply define placeholder and you will have text, for example, white. Okay, so right now we can see, let me reload, and here this is perfect. We can have some opacity here. For example, you have 50% opacity, and then you can have see something like this. So we will style this to each input field. For example, here we'll have to paste on this styling, and here also on this, for this message actually we'll have something like this. Okay, perfect. So right now if you reload, you will have this status. Okay, so now when you have submitted, what will happen? So that's why here at first we'll have to just change the one state. Okay, so for example, here we will have something like this. Let me, after doing that, we'll have const handle change, change change. Here we will receive event, and every time we will set something like this. Here what we'll do, for example, we will have set from, and set from form. So where is actually set from? Let me define. Okay, here is actually for example, we forget to define, this is form data, and that is actually set form data. And here we'll define set form data, and here what you will have to do, inside it we can simply define, here we'll have prev. Okay, prev, and then we'll have parenthesis, and inside this curly braces we'll have to define if prev is there. So if prev is there, and finally we'll have event dot target target.name equal event.target.value. And after doing that, here on each of this input, what you will do, for example, each of this input you will have to say, for example, this is for the first one, this is for the first name. Here we'll have value, and this value will be form data dot name. Okay, form data dot name. And whenever you have value, you will have on change. So this is on change, and on change will say handle change. Okay, so each of this field will have the same thing, will have value for form and on change. Then for example, here will have value for message and on change. Okay, so after completing this, what you will have to do, here you will have to define some type. Here what you will have to do, this type. So this type will be, it will came from, for example, let me define, this is react. Then you will have change event. Okay, and inside this change event we have to define the type. The type will be html input element. Then or we will have or sign and say html text. Okay, html text area element. Okay, so right now the error has gone. And after completing that, look, after completing that, what you will have to do, look, if you reload, you will have everything. Okay, now on this form, where is our form? This is the form. We'll have on submit, and on sub on submit, and here we'll have handle submit, handle submit. Okay, we'll just define this function. For example, we can just define after here, we will say const handle submit, and here you will have, for example, a function will receive event, and for example we'll make it asynchronous, so we'll have something list. Okay, so this will be, for example, react. So this form is actually react form event. Okay, form event, and inside it at first you will have to prevent. Okay, event prevent default. Okay, and then let me call this, and after then what you will have to do, look, after doing that, here we will have to say set state loading. Okay, set state loading, and then here we'll have a try catch, and inside this try block we'll have const, sorry, here we'll have try catch, and inside this catch we'll have error. Okay, we'll just solve that error later, but here we'll have, for example, const will have to define response, and here we'll have await. Then for example here we'll have to fetch, so we'll have the API, for example API forward slash contact will need to define the API within a few seconds, but right now it's okay. Will let me just code it. For example, here we'll have method will be post method, and after defining this we'll have headers, and headers will be, for example, curly braces, content type, content type, application JSON, and finally we'll have to define body, and we'll define the JSON stringify, and here everything is fine. And after defining these, actually after defining this, we'll check if not response dot okay, then what you will do, you can have to throw an error, or you can just define something like this, throw an errors, so message. And lastly, if everything fine, what you will do, you will have to define set status, that will be success, and finally we'll have to say set from data, set from data, and here we'll simply define name will be empty object. Okay, so then we will have email and message. Okay, everything is fine. And lastly, if error happens, we'll have to define set status. Here we'll have to define error. Okay, so we have already successfully done. And finally, lastly, what you will have to do, we'll have to show the error status. So that's why after doing this button, after having this button, what you will do here, after having this button, we can have simply define curly braces if status equal success, success success, we can have simply define ampersand, double ampersand, to define a and condition, and we'll have a paragraph, and say, for example, we can say message 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 sent successful. Okay, CCESSFULLY successfully. Okay, and here on this paragraph we'll apply some styling, so this will be text green, for example 500, and text will be on center. Okay, and after then here we'll have another status, so a status will be if error happens. So if error happened, what you will do, we'll have and then, and say, for example, so for example we'll have a paragraph, so let me define a paragraph and say failed to send message, please try again, please please try again, AGAIN again. Okay, and for this paragraph we can have styling, and say this is actually text, for example red 500. Okay, text red 500, text center, perfect. Okay, so right now we have already everything done. And for example, if you provide your name Mamun, then for example I just define mamun@gmail.com. Okay, and say for example thank you. Okay, thank you message. And if you send it, you can see it's actually failed. Why actually it's failed? Because look, we don't have the API created. We have to face the API to post a request, but we don't have the API. And in the next actually we will learn how to create backends in your uh, Next.js project using API route. Okay, so right now you can see we didn't have any API, so that's why it's showing this type of error. Okay, to fix that we'll have to implement API routes in Next.js. So how you can do this? So for doing that, here on this app folder we'll have to create a new folder that is actually API. So you will have to follow the exactly the same name here to make backend request here inside actually Next.js. And inside this API we will going to create a API for actually contact. So that's why we'll define the folder name is contact, and inside these actually we'll have routes. Okay, so route.ts. Okay, so follow this same convention, and here on this, for example, we are going to implement post route. So that's why here we'll have export. Let me define export here, and then we'll have to define asynchronous function, and we'll say it will be a function, and this function will cost post okay, called post because post actually, because actually we are doing a post request. If you have any other request, you will have to define the same way. So either it will be post, it will be get, or it will be patch or delete. So all the name convention will be the similar here, and inside these actually we can have some for example it will receive the request. So request request, and this will be the next request. Okay, so what you will do, for example here we will simply define request. Okay, so request, and inside it actually, for example, we'll have a try catch block, and if error happens, what you will have to do, for example, we'll have const, we'll have error message, message, and we'll catch this error. So error will be instance of the error object, and inside this, if that error happened, we'll simply catch the error message. Otherwise we can have, for example, failed to send message, something like that. And after doing that, we'll have to return, for example, next response. Okay, so next response, let me import it from the next /server, and here we'll just send it on JSON format. So that's why JSON format, and inside these actually we will have two object. For example, we'll have message message. This message will be error message. Otherwise we'll have a comma here, and say we'll have another object, and we'll provide a status. A status will be, for example, 500. Okay, so why this error actually, let me define JSON the type of next request. Okay, so here, for example, we'll fix it within a few seconds. The properties JSON doesn't exist on type of next. Okay, so this will be any type. Okay, so for doing this actually, let me check if everything is fine. We'll have to define a tab to make it perfectly showing. Let me fix it. Okay, so something like that. After doing that, inside this try block, for example, here what we'll have, for example, we'll have await, then we'll have request dot JSON format, and here we'll have parenthesis, and we'll say yes, and we'll have to define a type here. So that's why interface, and we'll say that will be contact request quest request body. Okay, and inside here actually we'll have name string, then email string, message string. Okay, so now we'll just choose these here. Okay, as actually contact body. Okay, and finally after completing this, here actually we will have to return. So return next response dot json, sorry, json. And here what you will have to do, for example, here you will have send message, mess message. This message will be, for example, so message sent successfully and status 200. Okay, here I made a little mistake. Instead of request, here as we are sending response, it will be next response. Okay, so that's why the error happening. It will be next response. Okay, response response. So the error has gone. Okay, we'll have to remove this next request. Okay, perfectly done. And after completing these, actually, let me back here, let me reload it. Everything is fine. Let me define, for example, Mamun. Here will provide an email address, that is actually mamun@gmail.com. And lastly, here we'll have to say, so thank you. Okay, thank you. And after completing this, if you just click this send message button, you can see it's sending. And then after loading, it will just provide an status. So for example, if you provide wrong thing, for example, if you define something like that and try to hit, it will say it's actually fill this status. Okay, perfectly, you will have to fill this status because we just record all of this stuff. So if API is not there, you will get error, but if everything fine, you will get that type of status. So I think it's okay. And lastly, we have everything done. Now we'll have to implement actually the animation part. Okay, we'll have to explore animation using framer motion. Okay, okay, we have already done this project. Look, we have the UI for the home page, then we'll have about page, project page, blog page, and contact page. Okay, we have already implemented the dark mode and light mode feature, and right now here we'll have to apply animation. So here, if you just check our website and see, the awesome animation is applying. Okay, so every section we have the awesome animation, and this animation is possible by using framer motion. Okay, so now we'll have to implement framer motion and we will apply animation to our website. Okay, so for doing this, actually you will have to go to the GitHub repository. I will provide this in the video description. So from there you will go to src, and inside this src you will have utils. Okay, so here I have provide some custom code. You will have to copy this custom code and you will keep it on your projects. Okay, so let me copy it and then go back to your uh, project, and here inside this src folder we'll create a new folder that is actually utils, and inside this we'll have animation.ts. okay, and inside this we'll paste the code, and see we will have all of these stuffs like this. Okay, so now after having this, how to apply this animation. Okay, so to apply this type of animation, for example, at first let's start with the hero component section. So here we'll go to hero.tsx, and how to apply this. For example, here we'll have to apply the animation something like this. Look, if I reload the website, your image is just showing this type of animation. Okay, so right now if I reload, we don't have any animation here. Okay, so for example, if you want to apply framer motion, at first you will have to target the section, then you will just import motion. Okay, motion from actually framer motion. Okay, so if motion is not there, let me import it. Here we'll have to import motion from our framer motion, and then we'll have to apply motion dot div. Okay, so this is the way how you can just use framer motion. We already have installed it when we just project setup. Okay, so this is okay. And after, then what you will do, for example, here we will let me take some integer, and we will simply define dot dot, and we'll have to apply the utils class. So for example, here we'll apply scale, so scale in, and after then we'll have to apply some transition, and transition will be duration. For example, here we'll have to apply delay. Okay, we'll add some delay, that is actually 0.2. okay, so after having this, what we'll have, so if you back to your website, you can see you will have this type of thing, because whenever you use framer motion, you must have to define this component as actually client component. So for doing that, go back to the top of the website or the page, and here you will simply define use client, okay, to fix these issues. So this is actually applied, this animation is applied using framer motion, and that's require use client. Okay, so right now if you reload, you can see your image just loading something like that. Okay, so perfectly working. Okay, now let's add some animation to this text. So to do that, here we will target this h1, and we will have to define motion at the beginning of this tag, and after then here we'll have to define some styling, and you can see all the stuff is coming from the utils file. So where is utils file? Let me open it on the sidebar. Here you can see which type of animation we will apply on this h1. For example, we will apply this fade in up. Okay, so we can copy it and back to here, and we can simply define destructure it and use it here. So fade in app, we'll have to import it. Let me import it from animations, and after then we'll have to apply transition, and this transition will be, for example, delay 0.3. Okay, so right now this is done, and if you check, you can see this is the perfect animation applying. Okay, so after then let me target this paragraph, and here which type of animation we will apply. So for doing that, here we will have motion, then we'll have dot, and then again we will call the animation type. For example, here we will have, for example, fade in up, and then we'll apply delay. That will be, for example, the delay will be here 3. That means we can apply 0.5 here. Okay, so right now if I reload, you can have this type of animation. Okay, so this is actually perfectly working. Look, all the animation is cool here. Okay, so I just define the animation here. You can just complete this project by using the source code. Just watch the source code and then apply it on your projects. Okay, so I hope you can just do that. Okay, so I think you have already completed these projects, and now how to deploy these projects, and I will show you how you can complete this project and deploy it. Okay, so for doing that, at first you will have to go to your code editor. Let me close everything, and here what you will do, for example, you will open the terminal and close this terminal or stop this terminal by pressing Ctrl C. So let me press Ctrl C to stop it. Let me clear it, and now before we publish this project, we will have to check it, and for doing that, at first you will have to build your projects. Okay, so this is actually production build. We will command npm run build to run this production build, and this will show if there's any error on your application. Okay, so look, it's actually optimizing for production build, and here you can see we have getting lots of error. Okay, so we are getting lots of errors. So and say we have an error on page.tsx, and this error is for actually this. Okay, so how you can just fix that? For example, go to the about page, and here open this page.tsx. For example, maybe we have a quotation or something like this. So let me check it. Okay, the error is happening from this sign. So this is actually this sign, and how to fix it. Okay, so to fix this type of thing, you will have to apply the proper syntax of this. Okay, so how to define this proper syntax? So here actually you can see it's actually suggesting this stuff, so we can have this. Okay, let me copy it, and instead of this apostrophe, you will have, okay, something like that. So this is will be solve this problem, and ap os and then a semicolon. Okay, so this problem is solved. Now you will go to the hero section. Let me copy this, and we will go to the hero section. We'll have the same problem. It's a minor problem. So go to the hero section, and now here we'll have this. Okay, here we'll have to correct it. Let me just change it here. After then we will have navbar. You can see div is declared but never used, so this is actually never used variable. Okay, so how to fix it? For doing that, go to the navbar, and it says div is used, but actually div is defined but not used. So where div is defined but not used, it's actually, for example, let me check unused div where it is. Let me format this code. So I just format this code. We'll have to remove this use. So this causes an error, and here is actually an error, that is actually div is import but not never used. Okay, so I think this problem is solved now. And after then we'll have to go to contact page. There are some errors, so let me go to contact page. Okay, so then open this page.tsx. Here we will have which type of error. P is declared but never used. So why is P is declared? Okay, so this is the thing, we'll have to remove it. And after then S error is defined but never used. Why error is defined but never used? Let me check. So isn't we used it here? So let me define. So a console log here. I think this will solve this. Okay, after then we will have a problem for the apostrophe, where we used apostrophe here. So let me check. For example, in this contact info, for example, here we'll have apostrophe. Whenever you have apostrophe, you will have this. Okay, ampersand apos, then a semicolon. Okay, so this problem is solved for this contact page, and I think everything is solved. And after completing this, let me clear it and we'll run the command again. Okay, npm run build, build. Okay, so let me press enter. So if everything is okay, then you will have this completed. That means I think everything is perfectly okay and there is no error right now. And after completing this, you can check your production built website by using npm run start command. Okay, start command. And now this is actually production built website. Let me open it. You can see this is perfect. So is everything fine? Okay, fine, everything is fine. We will go to the about page, project page, blog page, contact page, and let me check if this uh, dark mode light mode is perfectly working. Yes, so light mode is perfectly working, dark mode is perfectly working. Okay, that means we have the website completed. I ignored the uh, animation part, but you can do that using the source code. I have the complete code here, so I will provide this code. You can just use that code. Okay, so now how to deploy this project? So to deploy this project, actually here you will go to the GitHub. Then after just sign into GitHub, you will create a new repository by clicking this plus icon. Click this new repository, and then here you can just define a project name. So it's a Next.js portfolio website, so we'll simply define Next.js portfolio website. Okay, and after then what you will have to do, you will have to create a new project, new repository, and from there we'll have to command all of these stuff. We'll start from here. Let me open the terminal and let me close it by pressing Ctrl C. We'll clear this terminal. At first we'll have to copy this git init. Okay, so we'll have to define git init, then we'll have to copy git add. Okay, so we'll simply define git add, and additionally here to add everything you will have to define a dot here. That means it will add everything to the git repository. And finally we'll copy this 4 lines and paste it on your terminal and press enter. So everything is okay. So this project is perfectly hosted on GitHub, and if you just refresh, you can see your code is here. Okay, after then to deploy it on Vercel, you will go to vercel.com, and here you will go to the dashboard section and then click this add new, then project, choose the repository from your GitHub account. So look, this repository is created within just second, and let me import it. And after importing it, you don't have to do anything here. Simply click this deploy. It's deploying. Okay, it's done. Now continue to dashboard, and here you will just get your domain. Let me click here, and you can see your website is ready. You can share this URL to your friend so that he can just check your website. Okay, everything is perfectly working. Look, so that's the end of this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me on comment section. Okay.